GunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions.
And welcome everybody to our Ask Gun Questions show. I think I just screwed with my mic, so hopefully it stayed on my microphone here. But thanks for joining us. We're going live to answer gun questions. We got Tony joining us. Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, no problem, man. Glad to be here.
So we don't have any questions coming in yet, so I'm going to head over to, let's see, Mike White just jumped in, but I'm going to jump over to the website and see if anything has come in that way. While I'm doing that, what's been happening?
For me, work, planning out the 2025 schedule. I already have a speaking engagement in Florida on the 20th of February. That's going to be with Florida Carry and GOA. That's great. Get to go down there. And just I'm going to have to coordinate with 5 different ranges this year for my dates. So that kicks off Monday morning. I'll send out the emails with all the dates on it to all 5 range owners. And hopefully by Tuesday, Wednesday, because everyone knows it's coming, everybody can give me an idea of what days work for them, and then we can juggle them around, and I could probably, make a big deal announcement about it or do a reel on it. Do multiple, really, because people never see the first one. You know how it is.
I don't know how
I
much
put
that
stuff
might...
out. Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't know where I didn't mute. I just realized I wasn't muted. I moved my mic out of my face. Usually I've got a mic right in my face when I'm doing these. So I don't really know what mic it's picking up. I'm going to touch this. Is it this one?
Oh, yeah. Ooh, baby.
That was it?
That was loud.
Now I know where to talk into. But I don't know what it's picking up in the room. So this is my old mic. This is the mic that's just built into the computer. I used to do this for a good chunk of all my podcasts until I bought an actual mic.
Yeah, it's hilarious to step up that actual mics are and the different sounds it brings to the table.
It certainly does, but they're also massive pains in the asses so far for me. Because you got to start off with, you get a, assuming you're going with a wired mic and not some kind of cordless thing. Sorry, I heard a weird noise. When you go with a wired mic, do you go with a USB or do you go with something that plugs into like a mic jack on the computer if you have one of those, because not all computers have them? Or do you go with the powered mics that are kind of common with, I guess, most PA systems and when you're singing or doing music and things like, this big knobby jack that takes power and stuff. So I always went with the USB or the headphone jack type of thing. But I just bought a thing that is a mixer, I guess, made for podcasts. But I bought it because it was one that a lot of people use or recommend. But now I realize that the mics, I need a real mic now. It uses the mics with the real jacks in the back. I don't know what that thing is called. There's probably a name for it.
Yeah, all of a sudden, because you wanted to upgrade a little bit, it's going to cost you a lot of bit. I was checking it out myself, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I've gone from using the PC, the built-in mic, to using a plug-in mic, to using the USB, to using the Bluetooth. Let's hold on a bit until we get a steady income stream before I start upgrading the sound. Because I don't know who's going, I can't listen to Tony and bailing because of the sound. What is that money spent? What's the return on investment going to be, even in listeners or even the quality of listening? Because I don't get a lot of, hey, Tony, you kind of suck. Your sound blows. I mean, they tell me I suck for other reasons, but not because of my sound.
Yeah, the only time I got negative feedback from sound was back in the day when the microphones would pick up, or just have like a whistle in them or like annoying, I don't know what to call them, like extra noises. And they were there, but there was nothing I could do about it. There wasn't anything I could do about it back then. I only had the cameras I had. But as soon as you can hear, I think it's fine. It's definitely, you can get richer sound, but just like you can get good lighting, but it's a whole nother subject. But anyway, I think that's what happened.
Yep.
Is I plugged this thing in. It's supposed to be Bluetooth, and I suspect whenever Windows seen it or whenever it says hello to Windows, it said, "Hey, give me all your microphone settings" or something. And now I have to figure out how to reassociate them with the things that, like I say, are plugged into USB right now. But I'm not super satisfied. I don't know. Last couple of these shows, I think some of my other shows, my mics have been acting really weird. But it could also be my computer being old and old. Anyhow, that's enough technical stuff. 2025, the beginning of the year, I guess, is a time when people end up buying stuff. This was more of like, it was in front of me and it was super cheap. So I looked around and I was like, oh yeah, a lot of people use these things. I'm gonna try it out. It gives you like 60 buttons. Well, like there's a rack of 8 buttons, and I think you get 4, so whatever that comes out to. You get a bunch of sound effects or things you can
Yeah.
push the button and the thing happens. And I'm like, oh, I think I could use those for like commercials and, how it is with on a radio show or something where you put those in. And
Yeah,
then
I
you can
actually was
adjust
having.
levels and stuff. But
I had those
I might take it
discussions
to
with.
shop.
I had those discussions with Joe and Rolo when they first started up, uh, talking about the equipment they were buying and trying to figure out what to get. And that was actually an entire discussion at Train and Learn, because Sean Herron, who is the owner of Firearms Radio Network and also owner and host of We Like Shooting, he came in and did a teaching module, actually 3 teaching modules, because we each spoke 3 times in 3 different classrooms, so people can go from room to room and catch it. But he did an entire teaching module on equipment and what to do and what to buy. And that's one of the reasons I think a thing like Train and Learn is very important, because you get that information from someone that owns, an entire podcast network, and you get it over what 1 to 3 day weekend for like $400.
Well, the other thing is, like, if I wanted to learn about this thing that I bought, I'm gonna call it a mixer. I think it's called a mixer. But there might be a better name
Yeah,
for it. Anyway, if I
no, that's
went
it.
and looked at this model, then I might find how to operate it, and then I could probably find people that are using it and how they set it up. But what you don't get with video is questions and answers. I mean, you might be able to ask a question, and if they're paying attention, they might reply. And then, best case scenario, they make a new video showing you something. But that takes time, and that's like a lot of what ifs. And that's something that one of the reasons I didn't bother with this is because of that. Like, there's a lot of trial and error when you have something with, I don't even know how many buttons this wiggles, knobs and stuff this thing has, to know, what all of it you need to pay attention to and what all you don't. That takes some time. And that's some of the reasons I was like, yeah, I'm not going to even bother with these things. But it just came across my path. And I thought maybe a little bit at SHOT Show, like it's the kind of thing like Amanda Suffolk would set down, or like Clover would set down, or like you're saying, Sean, or somebody would set down on the table if they were going to record a podcast, because they're all super worried about audio, and they've all bought stuff for it. The thing is, it's not. I think Amanda's is the coolest thing I've seen. I know you've seen it because we were standing there and I was filming about it either right before or right after you were doing that podcast with her that year. But it looks more like I don't know, like an old cassette player or something, and it was not very big. This thing is more of a flat thing with a bunch of knobs, like a mixing thing at a studio where you bring all the stuff together and mix them together. Hers was more of a recorder, I guess. I think I'd probably be better off with something.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know. It's really just for recording, though. This is really for while you're playing back on a stream, being able to push those buttons and have a commercial run or something.
yeah, because I want to bring in guests on the podcast, on 2A4E podcast, because I got some interviews, and using Anchor, using the Anchor app, they call into the phone number into the app, and then we do the interview, but it's live. And
Yeah, and you
some
wouldn't even
people
need
get
this
nervous.
because that all happens through the app then. Like this thing, you can, you have your microphone, you have your other microphones, you can have like two people's microphones plugged into it directly. But then you can have a microphone or an audio signal coming in from a phone. And I'm assuming that's like if you had an actual call-in number, you would connect that to your phone, and then that line would come in and you could, adjust the volume so that it works with everybody else's, I guess. And what you're talking about, though, that happens in the Anchor system. So you don't even need
In the
anything like
entire
that.
app. Yeah. Yeah, you don't need a darn thing. So I thought that was really a good thing. But now I got to go back in and find all of my information to do Anchor again. Heck, because I want to, do shows. I think I'm up to 100 episodes of the 284E podcast. Cool thing about it, uh, I'm not going to make it anything corny and super special because there's such a gap between these. You know what I mean? I don't regularly do them, and I want to get better at that. Just so I can set up also selling ads on it and can give people a schedule. Yeah, we're going to do it once a month or twice a month. We'll have a 2A4E podcast, and then do a. I'm thinking because you hooked me up with this thing. What is it, Streamlabs? That you can do a live. You can go live from this straight to YouTube, and I thought it was pretty
And
cool. And I
active
did
at
a
the
little
same
test.
time. Well, depending on how much you pay, I guess. But yeah, and I think LinkedIn, if you hooked it up, I just don't bother hooking up.
Yeah, yeah. I got to start my LinkedIn page over again too since they booted me. But I don't even know what they bring to the table.
Really? They kicked you off?
Oh, they kicked me off. They kicked me off LinkedIn and then acted as if, I mean, like, who the heck are you? I'm like, what the frick do you mean? Who the heck am I? It was like, yeah, you're gone.
Oh,
I'm
I
like,
didn't even know
no
that was
account.
the thing. Because of gun stuff?
I, okay. All I did was I put warnings on there, forewarned, and it was a self-defense shooting during a robbery, almost like active self-protection does. And it might have even been that. But I did lessons that you can learn from that as a defensive firearms instructor. And that's how I put it out as a learning thing. Uh, and of course, a lot of people, chimed in, were positive. And then there was one dingleberry that came in and was negative about it, saying it wasn't the place to have this. And I'm like, I'm a defensive firearms instructor. This is what I do. This is the place. This is the profession. And he said something corny, and I was like, well, okay, I understand. But what is your plan to defend the people you care about? That's what I teach. And he said something snotty, and then boom, I'm off because I refuse to be unprofessional, right? I refuse to be nasty because there's no win there. I'm not going to convince this douche canoe of anything. But what I can do is turn others off with the way I interact with him. So I decided not to be rude, not to be nasty, and all of a sudden I couldn't even log in.
Well,
Like
that's lame.
yeah, I went off the app, because I was at work, and next time I tried to go on the app, I couldn't even log in. It was like as if I had no account. And I'm like,
I
well,
mean,
who
I
do you
think it's
contact when that
mostly,
happens?
LinkedIn is mostly for people looking for a job, right? Like that's what I think they built it for. And then it was like, all these people were looking for jobs, or maybe people that look, people that are really climbing the corporate ladder. You're supposed to
Hmm.
look for a new job every 3 to 5 years, right? So that you can get a new base pay, get a raise, and then move on so that you're not stuck in the not getting enough raises for your time in the clock. So
Oh, okay.
I can imagine after a few years, 7 years, somebody might be on LinkedIn a number of times looking for a job. So they probably figured out that, hey, let's make it a community of people that are, climbing the corporate ladder and make it a business, Facebook or something. And I mostly was on it, or am on it, I guess, just to, in case somebody wants to do business, so they can go look at my bona fides or whatever you want to say. It's essentially your
Hmm.
resume online all the time. So,
Yep.
And I don't know if it's ever worked for that or not. Like
Exactly.
I've done a lot of
Uh,
stuff or whatever, and it's got a bunch of shit on there, but it's not like, I mean, I don't know anybody that uses it really a lot, other than nowadays you can, have things also go to LinkedIn. So it's like I'm going to post it on YouTube and it also goes to LinkedIn. I'm going to post it on Facebook. It also goes to LinkedIn. That kind of thing.
that's pretty much what I was using it for. Also, I wanted to be able to, much like everyone else, it's like, yes, this is the work I do. And if you go to LinkedIn, you can see not only the 2A4E work, but what I'm posting up, that I'm an actual activist and an advocate. You know what I mean? And I'm not just somebody that's coming to your company going, give me free stuff. No, no, I put in work for a long time. I think I forgot what I was looking at today. Can't remember whether it's Instagram or X or Facebook, but it said I had 4,500 posts. That's not just somebody that's a drop in the bag. I mean, I've been out there for a while, and my content is different from. I mean, maybe not super different, but it's in my lane. My
Yeah.
content day to
Well,
day. It's not all
I
over the
think it would
place.
be, I think it'd be similar to if you were a car brake, you did car brakes for a living, or maybe your other
Hmm.
full-time job, right? And then you showed like, here's what happens if your car brakes fail at the wrong time, and graphic because somebody's gonna hit a tree or whatever, or
Hmm.
here's what happens if you don't put a good enough deadbolt on something, graphic because somebody's gonna have
Hmm.
the door kicked in. Like,
Yep.
what's really the difference, right? Other than
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
probably somebody is able to say, well, guns are evil and guns are a vice, and
Hmm.
he's blah blah blah, and play off of that bullshit because that has to be it, really.
Yeah, it has to be because my whole thing is, I mean, you've seen it. You've seen me write it. You're your own first responder. This is why this is important. This is why we fight for this. I mean, it's not really that hard of a tie-in from Second Amendment to, especially again, someone that's a firearms trainer and defensive firearms trainer and take classes and ask people to train to be better with what you have. It's like, no, it wasn't that much of a leap. So yeah, that was someone being an advocate, anti-gun advocate or anti-freedom advocate.
So Mike White asked or put in here, I guess, I don't know if it's a statement or a question, but if you don't like or agree with the video, uh, don't watch it. Why screw with the content provider? I'll just play devil's advocate that, it is a back and forth platform. If you want to just present it, you put it on your website and you say, here it is. Here's my gospel. I'm putting it on my website. Nothing you can do about it. Or you put it on YouTube and you put comments off and you go, here's what I say. And you can look at what I say and that's it. But if you leave your comments on, I think that's because you expect to get some back and forth. But there's a difference between like, hey, I got a real problem with what you're saying here. Like, I think this is a big deal. Like, it's an emergency, like, let's make it, I got to make a big deal about this, which may or may not be valid. I'm just saying, like, there's that level. And then there's the like, oh, by the way, I don't like what you're doing over here, but everything else I like. Like there's the 1 to 10 type of scale of how how bad people are going to attack your opinion or your whatever your points are in the video. So I don't have a problem with the feedback. I think that sometimes it's abrasive or rude or whatever. But then, I mean, I don't know exactly, obviously, what exactly went on or what that guy's problem was. But I think sometimes people have like resting bitch face in their comments or whatever I want to say. Like they're just not good at communicating with people and they'll say stuff. And I've thought about this because I've been around for a while and watched disagreements happen and try to evaluate stuff every once in a while. And you can kind of tell when like two people just don't like each other, they're going to misunderstand each other at some point and clash. And somebody with what is it, a parasocial relationship? Somebody could be
Hmm.
thinking about 6 videos ago that Tony said something, and it's like, you know what? I need to teach this guy. I got to say something to this guy. I got to tell this guy off. And they're just picking at something to do it with, all the way down
Yep.
the spectrum to they're thinking about their wife and saying, you know what? Can't say shit to her, but tell this guy off, or everything.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm just trying to play devil's advocate.
Oh no, you're 100% right, and I have no problem with the back and forth. As adults, let's have this conversation. But when you want to just stifle the conversation. When you want to crush it, when you want me pulled, that's when it's a problem because again, you can agree or disagree, but this is a freaking civil right. You can dance around that all you want to, but it's a civil right. And it's what I do as a trainer. And it's what I've done at that point. I don't know, like 6, 7 years. But it was zero loss by me not being on LinkedIn, mainly because I saw no positive coming from me being on LinkedIn. So it's hard for me to see me not being there as a negative. Outside of it's yet another platform I'm not on, but again, I saw nothing coming from it. And then think about how many platforms we've seen come and go in the time we've been here. So it's like, do I get upset because I'm no longer on? Heck, I can't even think of the gun one that we had going on for a minute. That all the certain gun tubers were on, and then it flared up and disappeared. And I'm not going to poop on anybody because the idea didn't work. But how much effort, how many different social media platforms do you go in, especially when you're going to be throttled because it's anti-gun? So what? I got to learn a new language to tiptoe around how to say things? No, just no. And now that what's his name? Corny kid that owns freaking Facebook. Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg all of a sudden is all about freedom. I'm sure everything will improve for firearms owners. Uh,
Well, and it's not like they have the ability or intent even to go back and correct anything from the past. I mean, that would probably be prohibitively difficult. But even if it wasn't, it would probably just not be on their radar. They're just meaning
no,
going
I know.
forward or whatever. But it should
Yeah,
mean
and
that
they don't.
people could rejoin or at least, what's the word, like repetition or something. They wanted their accounts back. Potentially. I mean, I don't want to
Yeah.
speak for Facebook. I don't want to give them, I don't know. I think that guy could
Okay.
just be, if we're talking about that one recent interview or
Yeah.
whatever that's been going around, it's probably
Hmm.
just him trying to, what's the word, like backtrack or tread water on knowing that
Oh yeah.
a lot of these platforms are going to be scrutinized pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, you you can't affect elections because that's what they did. Manipulate data and skew things, and say you're not news, but you throw people off if you edit it as if you are, and you're only putting out facts when you're not. But then you go, "Hey, we're not a news organization." Oh, but we are a news organization. We don't edit, but you do edit. Look, bro, there's different rules for each of those things and how it's handled. Now, either the First Amendment is there because you're putting information from both sides out and you're impartial, or you're editing. I forgot what it was, but somebody explained the difference to me. They didn't do it like a 5-year-old, so I'm still having trouble repeating it. But they were talking about how social media, I guess, what category social media falls into when it comes to freedom of speech and whether they're news or not. Which I'm looking at is like you guys just have a bunch of opinion, and truthfully, I don't feel you're any more news and you're any more legitimate than a YouTube channel at this point. Except, the FBI doesn't contact YouTube channels, and you don't have what was it, 20, almost 30 FBI agents, former retired FBI agents working for YouTube, but they damn sure did at Facebook. That they had their own unit.
I don't know about that. We don't know that they didn't have something at YouTube or Google or both. And because Google search is a whole thing, Google's got a ton of things. Think about Google Maps and what the government has or doesn't
Hmm.
have. Here's the other thing is if we're talking about that specifically, the government may or may not want to or has their hand ties from being able to do stuff, but they can hire a company that does
Hmm.
that. And as soon as they say to the world, like, man, I wish I had somebody that would track people on Google Maps because we can't, then how many people are going to jump up and make that company happen and then bid against
Hmm.
each other? And the government will just, whatever, probably bid whatever one has the lowest bid or something, maybe the highest bid. But you know what I mean?
Well,
Like they can do whatever they want if they just because they can't collect the data. If they need the data, they can buy or they buy the data. I want to say they did it all the time, but I've heard of that scenario taking place when they've had restraints on what they can collect. Um,
yep. All
Okay,
right, just
so
go ahead.
well, just to keep moving, because more people are jumping in. We had a bunch of people jump in, then they all jumped out. So maybe we're seeing like an Instagram rush or flush or whatever that's called, or we need to talk about gun stuff. So
Yeah,
what's everyone?
sure.
JK says, what's JNK says, what's everyone's plans for 2025 gun buys or potential gun projects?
Oh, okay. Since we're going to shot, one, I'm going to be asking for funding. That's an important thing. But let's talk about guns. I'm going to be approaching because I thought of this one this morning after I made this video about Glock clones over at Reshoot down in Lakewood. Reshoot is one of the ranges I host diversity shoots at, but they're also a gun store. So when I was down there, I did a video on Glock clones, and we went through, a bunch of them, including the original Glock Gen 5 and my carry gun, which is a Gen 2 Glock 19. And I was thinking, hey, why don't I speak to the companies that make these guns and I see if we can get examples of them sent from the companies. So we're talking Zero Delta, we're talking Zev, um, Zero Delta, Zev, Rock Island Armory with their DY9, which is like a $250 Glock clone. Just things like that. So that's one of the things we're going to get. So we can present them at, the 20 plus diversity shoots we host, and we can let people see. You can still get a Glock, but you can get a Glock with all these features and in these different price ranges. I mean, we have some very high end Glock clones or Glock pistols that have been customized, like Tarrant Tactical, which run at like 2 grand, or we can have, again, like I said, the Rock Island DY9 or the Grizzly, I think that's what it's called, from Bear Creek Arsenal, or the Dagger. All of those are sub $300 Glock clones. So we can have it. And I feel we should at least have some of these on lines from different manufacturers so people can come in where they're comfortable. Like you might want just a regular stock Glock, and that's good enough for you, and that's your first and last handgun, and that's what you have from here until you pass away. Cool. Or you could be that person going, all right, I already own a Glock 19. It's cool and all, but it's really plain Jane. What can I do to either to upgrade it, which you can send it to some of these same companies and get it upgraded, or just buy another one and get a high end Glock, and you can use your regular carry Glock as your backup, or that could be your carry gun and the other one is your range gun that you have fun with, whatever. But I think having examples of them at the diversity shoot is cool. So that's one of the things I plan on doing, is getting Glock clones from these companies. And you ask, I'll ask 10 and maybe I'll get 3, but it puts me on the radar with the other 7. You know what I mean? So get my face out there talking to them. They saw me at SHOT Show. So that's one of the plans, just for that one particular handgun. And I'm going to try to do it with other things too. ARs. I've already have a relationship, at least passing and speaking relationship, with HK. And now that they have that new HK 416 out, that is the military clone of the 416 that the Marine Corps has, that could be my high-end AR. And I've already established with Anderson that they're sending one of their frontline ARs to me, which, MSRP is 8, but I'm thinking it's coming in at like 6 in many places as a entry level AR, but not bottom of the bucket. You know what I mean? Because having a 299 or 399 AR-15 is not somewhere I want to guide someone that's getting their first AR, because it may be quality control problems or issues with it that they don't understand, because this is their first gun and it should work. So I figured Anderson has a history of putting out inexpensive ARs, but they have a good track record of damn things working. And now this is a step up. This is their better line. So I think that's pretty good. So so I'd like Anderson, I'd like something like that on one end of the spear and the HK416 on the other, uh, to let people know. And then we can put stuff in between because I know Mike over at Sons of Liberty Gunworks is a Second Amendment advocate. Him and I have been on shows together and we've spoken online before. So hopefully he could get one of his, which I think is pretty much neck and neck. I feel Mike over at Sons of Liberty Gunworks and BCM are a really good starting point for buy once, cry once working AR-15 that you won't regret buying. You know what I mean? They have enough a track record with BCM and a track record with Sons of Liberty. Plus, just listening to Mike and talking to him about his expertise with the AR itself, I think is a great thing. So those are like the two companies I'm definitely going to speak to and try to get ARs from them to put in ports for, again, as many events as we have. It just has to be Jersey legal, which really sucks because that means that the stock has to be pinned, and it has to have a muzzle. It has to have like a comp on it. It can't have a flash hider. So, I mean, I know they sell Jersey versions of their stuff, but it is just a little annoying.
Is that all it is? It just has to have like 16-inch barrel, of course, and then a pinned stock so that it
Uh,
doesn't go back and forth.
it's got to have a pin stock, have a 16-inch barrel, or 16-inch barrel, but the barrel has to be pinned and welded as if it's a 14.5. And of course, it can't have a flash hider. It can have a comp. It can have a muzzle device, but just not a flash hider.
Yeah, but since that's an arbitrary description of almost like a brand to brand or model to model
Okay,
fluctuation,
so the
generalization,
hole at
they really have
the,
like a
the hole at
description
the
on
end
it.
of the hole at the end of the muzzle has to be the same size as the projectile. That is what that means. So a
So,
flash
like,
hider,
you can put a brake on there or no?
yep, you can have a brake on there as long as that hole in the brake is the same diameter as the round. So you can have
Yeah,
all the
and
ports
then,
in it you want. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
So brakes and comps are fine. Flash hiders aren't because the head of the
Well,
state
what do they
police said
call a
the only
flash hider?
M16A2 flash hider,
A
that
bird
muzzle
cage?
device. The bird cage, that's a flash hider.
So, because it's a
Oh,
funnel going the wrong way with some holes in it, they call that a flash hider. Because it's not even a
oh
flash
well.
hider. It totally throws the flash. Like, I don't know why they
Uh,
call it a flash hider.
uh, the head of the state police, the colonel in charge of state police, and you need to go in and look. He said, yes, when you have a flash hider on a firearm, the only reason they have it is to make it more difficult for us to find the source of the fire. And then, see, my thing is, how did he get away with saying that? Well, I've
Yeah,
been to the
exactly.
hearings now. I've been to the hearings, and what happens to these pieces of shit? And I mean that. And if you're one of those always back to blue, well, you're one of the problems. This turd of a human being, the colonel in charge of state police, superintendent, said that the flash hider hides the flash so police can't find where gunshots are coming from. And then he does his little whatever, and then he walks out. So you can't ask him any questions. If you say something, they just start pounding the hell out of the hammer and they'll ask you to leave. And then they'll bring up another anti gun person to speak and another anti gun person to speak, and they will all lie, especially legislators and administrative people like the state trooper. And then he leaves. And after about an hour, they allow pro gun people to speak. So by the time you get up there to bring up this fact, they're gone. And the bullshit they said is forgotten. Or you going, all right, the state trooper that came up, the head of the state trooper just lied to you. They told you an untruth. And this person lied to you, and that person lied to you. And this whole thing is built on lies from people that know better, but they know you don't. Well, nobody cares. There's no back and forth. Now you're just attacking this person, to these idiots that are sitting there. And your stuff never gets covered by the media at all. The media only sticks around in the gun control hearings in New Jersey, and I've been to one, two, three or four. They only stick around to get the sound bites from anti-gun or gun control people, and then they leave before any of us speak. So what we say never gets seen on the news. So their lies, their talking points are the ones that get on the news, and then the news media leaves. Actually, they stop everything to allow the news media to pack up their cameras and leave, and then they ask us to speak every time. So that's what it's like. That's why you never see anything coming out of hearings in New Jersey unless it's coming directly from pro 2A sources. You don't see pro 2A speeches unless it's a politician and he's saying the bumper sticker bullcrap. Because again, on the only pro 2A people that might be here is some soft ass Republican, and he'll be saying some bumper sticker logic too, and nothing sticks.
We got Teresa.
Well, Teresa is she's not an elected official, and she's amazing. But they give you 3 minutes. They give you 3 minutes. So the best thing we can do is record ourselves and then put it out and hope something goes viral or someone well spoken like Teresa gets her point out, and at least they push it from the female angle. You know what I mean? And that gets out there, and that gets more traction than the 175 guys that come up and say almost the exact same thing, but nobody wants to hear a white dude talk about their civil rights and the Second Amendment, and it's almost automatically shut down. So it takes what's the word they try to act like? It takes someone that's a female. It takes someone that's a minority. Uh, it takes someone that fits some other demographic that's not seen as being pro-gun to get word out.
Well, coming back
Oh,
to the question, plans
mhm.
for 2025, do you even consider buying guns just for yourself to buy a gun?
Dude, when I think about buying a gun for myself, it always trips into this would be a cool gun to have for diversity shit. You know what I mean? But a firearm that I personally want for myself that would be awesome for diversity shoot. Um, is from Military Armament Corporation. They have a JSOC 1911 that is a clone of the one that Delta Force used to use in the 80s. And they have that, and I really want to get one of those just because of what it is. You know what I mean? I'm never going to get my hands on a real one, and they built this one supposedly well. They built it with forged parts, and I think it would be really, really cool. So that is something that it would go, yeah, I'd really like that for myself personally, and also obviously for the diversity shoot because if there's nerds like me out there that would be blown away by, yo, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? That's a Delta Force gun. I'd love to have that and introduce people to that. And heck, I showed one of my guys just a video of it, and he was like, I wasn't excited about buying anything. He said, but I'm definitely looking into getting one of those. And he has, I don't know, 12 1911s of various forms, and he shot them in competition. And he saw this one, and he was like, yeah, I'd really like to get that. So, yeah, that's the JSOC 1911 from Military Armament Corporation. I really like that. And they have two clones that I want to check out of shotguns. They have the M2 clone, a Benelli M2 clone, and they have a Benelli M4 clone. And if you know about those, they have two different kind of recoil systems, but they're both supposed to be awesome. The guns itself, the shotgun's supposed to be dependable, even though they're a Turkish company and Turkish shotguns have a bad, a not inconsistent reputation. TSOS and Military Armor Corporation, all the same company, and SDS Imports, that's all the same company. And I think they're working really hard to change that reputation. And I definitely like a nice semi-automatic smooth shooting 12 gauge. I've never owned one, but I've shot a few, and it would be really awesome because I love shotguns. I just most people don't like 12 gauges and don't like shotguns in general, so I don't talk about it a lot. But I think for a home defender one gun to do them all, which is a ridiculous concept and usually just video fodder. But I think like a one gun thing in a state like New Jersey that is anti-gun, a semi-automatic 12 gauge that works really well and can use any kind of ammo is really a good purchase. Oh, nice! Somebody has the Eddie Stone M1917 infill. So do I. So do I. Those are awesome rifles.
So that is an old gun, you're saying?
The what? The one I was talking about from Military Armor Corporation? No, those are new guns.
No, this one
This
is.
Eddie Stone. Oh yeah, that's an old gun. That's a P17, like you said. We were making the United States was making infills for Britain prior to World War One or during World War One. They knew they weren't going to have enough, so we started putting out these infills for them in 303 British. And then we saw the war coming our way, and on their own, I think either Winchester had to be Winchester was like, "Hey, we need to come up with a 30-06 version." So they did. They made a 30-06 version of the P17 because that's the English name for it, and we called it M1917. We called it an M1917, and he made it up, and that was the most prolific 30-06 bolt action in the American Army, in the American military during World War One.
As
It's
I
just
say,
they were
early.
well, it was all through World War One. They made significantly more infills than they did Springfields, mainly because we were already pumping them out for for England. What was it? It was Eddie Stone, Winchester, and Remington, I think. So we had all those factories making them for the English, and then we just switched over to 30-06. So we had three factories smoking, making those suckers for us already. So it was just it just dwarfed the number of 1903 Springfields. And we edited them out of most of the pictures. Whenever pictures, most of the pictures that you see have M1903 Springfields, only because the American government didn't want to show that we had these foreign designed guns in our military.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I think we
it was
talked
really
about that before,
ridiculous.
but I never sunk in.
Yeah, it was ridiculous propaganda for no freaking reason whatsoever because they were all still made in America and they were made in such prolific numbers. You should have been proud of it instead of, well, look, American government has always been stupid and prioritized dumb things, and that was one of the dumb things they prioritized during World War One. And it was like, bro, we got three factories that's churning out these rifles with Americans, and you're acting as if they're doing something distasteful. How do you wake up in the morning and go to work and go, yeah, I'm making these guns for American troops to fight the Hun, but they won't even put a picture of one of them? It was ridiculous.
That's what it must feel like if you're making 9mm.
Nice.
Nobody wants to talk about it.
How do you look yourself in the mirror with producing 9mm when there's 45 out there?
You know that every picture is going to have it photoshopped out of there and have a 1911 in there.
That'd be great. Which is really funny because they have 1911, 9mm 1911s, and people run around acting as if it's something new. Oh, look at these staccatos, 9mm. They're so much better than a 45. And that antiquated design. I'm like, it's the same design, douche canoe. Hell, it's even the same size mag.
So as far as plans for 2025, I don't really like. I'm past the buying guns. I guess I'm old enough or been around guns long enough that I don't thirst
Mhm.
for new guns or nothing. I was going to say we got enough other questions out there to last us a while, but I was almost going to ask the question like, at what point do you stop buying guns? Like some people go, "I'll never stop buying guns," but in reality, you stop at some point.
You
Um,
stop at some
yeah.
point. Even my friend Dave, who I was telling you about, has multiple 1911s. After a while, you stop because there's no great leap in different features. Like I have a Gen 2 Glock 19. You haven't done a damn thing to Glocks to make them really significantly better for me to buy a Gen 5 Glock 19. Like I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my Gen 2, which there is no really. I think they said they made 20 Gen 1 Glock 19, so that doesn't even count. So the first real Gen that goes out and gets bought by people were Gen 2. So I have a Glock from 1990, and I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at the Generation 5, and I'm like, this to me, I would not buy a Gen 5 Glock because there's no reason to. There's not enough upgrade between what I
Well,
already have.
even if you wanted to collect them, what are you going to collect? Just the nines? Are you going to collect the full size nines? Are you going to collect just the subcompacts? I mean, at some
Like
point you got to draw a line. I mean, there's
if
other
you're gonna,
brands that have less variety, but same thing applies, right? Are you going to collect all of their pocket guns? Are you going to collect? So
I
beyond
look
that,
at
though, you
Glock as
get beyond
different.
the space, and but
I look at Glock as different. And if you're a collector, that's what you're gonna do, right? I mean, if you're a collector and you go, hey, I'm gonna collect Glocks. Well, okay, but that's a hell of a step. I mean, that's a lot of things. Even just collecting 9mm Glocks is prolific. But
I mean,
collecting
I
all
got a lot of
Glocks,
Glocks, but it's because I have like a set of this set. I
hmm
wanted one like this. So I
gotcha.
run out of. I mean, I'd probably get like a 10mm one or something if I had unlimited funds in FFL next door. But yeah, it's
But
not
for
like
each
I'm
caliber,
waking up every day with an itch to like go buy another 10mm Glock or something.
yeah, I mean, but each caliber of Glock, I mean, depends on how long you're going to do it, right? If you just got into it, then the world's your oyster. You can run around buying Glocks left and right. But 20 years in, are you still doing it? Because you get a 10mm Glock. I'll go with 9 mil mainly because nope, I'll go with 40 mainly because I can think of all of those off the top of my head. You got the was it 23, 20 Glock 23, Glock 22, and Glock 27. That's all three sizes, right? Subcompact, duty size, and full size, and that's just one caliber. Well, you got those same three in 45 in those same
I think
three
you're missing
sizes.
all the little single stacks and sub guns that they make now. Like they make
Well,
a bunch.
yeah, that I'm sorry, you have four different models in 45, and I think you have three different models in 10mm. And I still think you got two or three different models in 357 SIG and two models in 45 gap. I mean, that's a crap load, and those are still those aren't really popular cartridges. And then you just have the plethora of them in 9mm. So yeah, that's a hell of a collection. You'll be buying for a long time, but sooner or later it just stops because Glock doesn't put out models like SIG does. I mean, the last, Glock had a what, Glock 47 that came out this year or in 2024. That's it. Glock comes out with a new gun like every 7 years. So yeah, sooner or later you'll run out. I'm assuming, and that's
Not
even
of
as a
any
collector.
brand. There's no brand that you can't run out of. And then you got to start going backwards and buying their earlier versions or their special
Hmm.
editions or something. But it doesn't matter
Yeah.
where you look at it from this angle, unless you're like really money's no object. I recently saw a thing where a guy goes into his basement and he's got like a room for cowboy guns and a room for shotguns. Like, he has like a massive collection that's insane, but still not as big as J.M. Davis or nothing. But anyway,
My whole,
unless you're
my whole
really,
thing
really
is,
not worried about it, what are you going to have? Like one room dedicated to guns? Okay. A lot of people have one room dedicated to guns. That's not a big deal. What if it's your garage?
mhm.
Okay. So now you have a really big ass room dedicated to guns. That's not unrealistic at all. Even like a man cave or a special shed or something. But now, how many safes are you putting in there versus how much room do you want to just be in there and have like room stuff to display? So unless you're warehousing it in there, and I've literally delivered stuff to people who are warehousing guns. Like I know that that's a thing for investors. So I know that people don't even know what investors are doing. But
Mhm.
maybe some people do. But I mean, like investors are at a whole nother level. And we're not talking like collectors. We're talking like investors. But collectors and even investors, really, what are you going to have? Like a warehouse of them? Like they are good return on your investment as far as like having a lot of them. Like I think that's why some people do collect them like that or inventory 'em or invest in them like that because you
Mhm.
can have a lot of density of guns compared to like a car or something. And you can,
Yeah.
dollar cost average into them by buying a gun every month as opposed to trying to buy a car for investment. But anyway, if you want to have realistically a room for your guns, where you can have like 3 gun safes, that's a finite amount of guns. Like 4 gun safes, that's still a finite amount of guns. People think like, I can just buy guns my whole life. Like after about 2 gun safes, most people give up. Like that's enough. Like you're not using anywhere near the guns in your back of your gun safes anymore. And you're buying them to compensate for something, not like, you know what I mean? Like you got some other issues going on that you're using buying guns is to distract from. But you know what I mean? Like except for the
Oh yeah.
people that really, really go nuts on stuff. But the thing is, like
So
I would keep buying the little mini revolvers because they don't take up any room and they're infinitely
mhm.
interesting to me. But even then, like if I was super rich, like I would run out of them. There's only so many.
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, I don't look, buy what you want, and you can buy as many as you want. People collect everything, and I don't think it's, oh well, you have a problem. I mean, I don't think dudes that buy freaking coins, have an issue. So same with guns. I mean, you buy your coins because you want to collect them. You like them, you dig them, you want to buy them, you want to have this one because it's unique, or maybe you want 10 of these, so you can sell them off and use them as an investment. Hey, I ain't gonna judge either way. If you want 10 Glock 19s of generation, or the RTD grip, fine. Because I look at it this way: if you were one of those people that bought a whole bunch of HK guns prior to the freaking assault weapons ban, those things are worth a crap load of money. You know what I mean? If you had 10 not scars, what was it? The AUG, before they started reproducing them, and Steyr wasn't really importing them in anymore. If you had 7 or 8 of those as investment things, most people call you a nut job up until you find out that they're worth like 5 times what you paid for them. And you just sell them off and buy something else if you bought them for that purpose. So, hey, do what you want. I'm happy for people. But yeah, it does slow down after a while, especially if you're pulling the triggers on them and actually shooting them. If all you're doing is parking them in the safe, and every now and again you open up your safe and you go through and go, "Oh man, I forgot I had this," which we both know people that do that. I was like, "Holy crap, I forgot I own this gun," which that's fine too. But I'd rather have firearms I can shoot. And if I wasn't in my current situation, I had my own house, yeah, I'd have multiple safes because I have to lock these things up and secure them. And also, in lieu of these California fires, I'd want to have, that protection too, and that's a good thing. Fires, a quality gun safe with pretty much like an hour fire rate.
We are going to have a lot of data about fire protection, the safes, real data. Nobody's
Mhm.
going to be able to hide this shit. It'll be interesting to see if people's, well, I suspect Fort Knox and Liberty are going to get a lot more sales than
Hmm.
anything at a big box store because people are going to figure out plaster of Paris and stop sign material doesn't hold up well to a real fire.
Uh huh. Yeah, and your old ass. And also, again, fireproofing has a lifespan, and people don't know that for the most part. A lot of the fireproofing that they had back in the day was just concrete that was wet for a certain amount of time. I mean, not wet as in sopping wet, but that was the kind of the proof of it. And that stuff eventually dried and lost its fireproofing. So I can't wait to learn more about it. I just remember Terran Tactical lost like all of his stuff at one of those fires. And a friend of mine, Matt, he lost his
House,
guns during the fire.
just now in these fires.
No, no, no. And a couple years before, I remember watching a video, and he was
Oh,
talking
okay.
about the thousands of rounds of ammo that he had that was in Connex boxes, and that went up because the place he is, where you see him shooting with Keanu Reeves, like he had, that's his business, that's his range, and that's where he had a lot of his ammo. Well, that swept through them during one of the fires, and all
Yeah.
that ammo was gone bye bye, and a lot of guns were gone. I mean, they still things, you know what I mean? But I've been looking at a lot of stuff lately, but I like the idea of I like the old school stuff TSOS has a couple of good 1911s. It seems like, and this is what the reviews I'm getting. Not every TSOS 1911 is great, but I'm like the Marine Corps one, the Marine Corps clone that they have also, the tan one is a their clone of the Marine Corps M45, which was the last issue 1911 that the Marine Corps used, and the Marine Raiders were issued it. Colt made it. It freaking sucked. The finish sucked. The guns blew, and the Marine Corps finally gave up the ghost and went to Glock 19s because Colt, well, just a bunch of freaking losers. And I'm glad that CZ bought them. Just their quality control fell out. And I'm like, how did you screw up making 1911s for the Marine Corps? That's been your thing for over 100 years. How did you mess that up? They got the contract to make these 1911s called the M45. And I don't think they lasted 2 years before the Marine Corps pulled them because of just they lost faith in them and their quality control was horrible, including the finish was just bad. It's like you're Colt and you screwed up 1911s. So I want their version because people say they're really good, and I'd like that. I'd like it for me, but that's something definitely I would also put in diversity shoot because I don't really separate myself from that. But I've learned that lesson when oh darn, what was the kid's name that passed away? He was with Virginia Defense League. Um, I could see him. Uh, I met him a few times. Nice enough dude.
Oh, their
He
social
was a
media
mix.
guy. Now I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
I don't
Um,
remember his name now off the top of my head.
yeah. So when he dissolved his charitable organization, they had to pass the firearms on to another organization because that's what you do when the charity goes away, or at least according to what they were saying. So they donated those firearms to another Second Amendment organization that continued to fight. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of need to separate my personal firearms from diversity shoot firearms. You know what I mean? Like things I've bought, things I've done, things are out of my pocket. Now, when we become the 501c3, we have to have actual charitable, guns that belong to the charity. I mean, we can still use them, but something has to be mine and something has to belong to the charity. You know what I mean? Like there has
That
to be
makes
a
sense.
distinction because I love having people shoot my guns and unique guns. But if they're going to start donating them in the name of the charity, I'm great with that. That allows the manufacturers to write it off. And I'm cool with the firearms belonging to, not being my personal guns because they don't get used like my personal guns. Anything I own, people can shoot. I'm great with that. I look forward to that. Hell, I started this based on that, and I got no problem with it. Uh,
Well, so
oh,
as far
somebody.
as buying guns for 90 to 2025, like I say, I'm not really all that hot on buying them right now. I mean, if something, like I say, if I found something somehow, I'm not against buying a gun or nothing. I just don't have plans to. But as far as
Yeah.
gun projects, yeah, I definitely have some projects I have half written. I essentially want to put the uh, Minuteman University project into a book. The goal of
Nice.
Minuteman University was always to become a resource for gun owners' rights, for
Mhm.
advocates for gun owners' rights, so that we can do our jobs better and be more effective as individuals. So, as for me at least, one of the problems I came across is in about 2015. I can't even tell you what age I was, but I had to be at least 40 something, probably. Um, I've been around for decades in the gun community. And in 2015, when I really seriously started taking a look at like how I can roll my sleeves up and help out, um, for whatever reasons, I got inspired, and I could have. Well, we've talked about it before, but whenever I really decided to roll my sleeves up and take a look around, it was difficult. There is no concise like a Wikipedia or an encyclopedia of gun advocacy. So I started to create that with Minuteman University, in two directions. One, like what we can do, the skill sets and the knowledge that we would need to have effective conversations amongst ourselves and with others, right? People that are anti-guns, people that could give a shit about guns, and people that love guns. And if we can have better conversations there, we win. So how do we do that? And I started to look around and go, how do we get to there? We have to know the laws. We have to know who we are. We have to know where we come from. And that's the other side of Minuteman University, like the knowledge, the information, where we, all that stuff, the laws, who we are, who's the community, and our history. And that turned into, I don't know, a few years. I actually got a pretty good head start on it. And then I lost a hard drive. So definitely back up your data. It's the beginning of the year, good time to back up your data. Get yourself a cloud storage place, get an extra external hard drive and back up your data. It's always a good idea to do that on a regular basis. I lost a bunch of the work, but whenever I came back after losing that hard drive, I was eager and I had all that stuff pretty fresh in my head. I got most of it and then went way further. But it's a map. And then I ran out of money, essentially. In reality, I just ran out of money and just racked up too much credit card debt, so I had to put it aside. So now that, it's years ago now, I'm really hoping to be able to pick that project back up and finish it to where it becomes a useful resource for someone who wants to do good in our community, so they can pick it up. And then, obviously the data that needs to be up to date would hopefully be on the website available, but they could pick up an actual physical piece of paper book, workbook style, spiral notebook style, so that it's useful, and use it when they're on a podcast, or use it if they're doing some kind of reference work or something, so that they can quickly have like a Wikipedia of everything that we need to be more effective communicators and therefore more effective advocates. So that's a long story, or a long way to say it, but that's what my 2025 gun project would be ideally. Like if I had all the money in the world, I would not be buying guns. I'd be just setting myself up with some time to put that project together, and then obviously get it out there so that people can utilize it. Not really a gun, I guess.
Yeah, whatever you just said just cut out, but at the very end.
I was trying to cough, and I don't know if I muted it or not.
Oh, okay, yeah, you did mute it, but it's like what? Yeah, dude. I mean, everybody's got projects. Or at least I hope we do. Because you know how many balls I have in the air at any one freaking time because I want to get so much done. But yeah, I just need to win the lottery so I can actually dedicate time to do this all the time because this is what I actually have a passion for. Um, Introducing people to this, getting people to train, tricking people into training because that's really sometimes what it feels like. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, we're gonna have this thing that you can meet these people. Ha ha! Holy crap! Um, that's one of the cooler things to try to get people to train, try to open people's minds up to what a lot of people don't know what they don't know. And it's like no one ever goes into the year talking about, hey, what are you guys are going to be doing this year? Where are you going to be training this year? What firearm you going to train with this year? What medical training you're going to anything? It's like, no, we need to do that. We need to change that outlook, maybe if that's the word I'm looking for. That attitude.
Culture.
Yeah. It's like, dude, you need to train. You need to take a training class. It doesn't have to be some high end, Navy SEAL training class, but it's like, come on, man. We need to get out there and be better
As
with
far
the
as first
gun.
aid, you can go to a Red Cross first aid, CPR, right? Stop the bleed. Those are all
Yep.
essentially free. If they don't cost free, then you'd probably leave them $20 as a donation, or if they cost a couple of bucks, it's totally worth it. But that gets you a familiarization if you don't have it, and it's great to bring people to. So you're going to take grandkids, kids, co-workers, people from school or church, or people
Mhm.
just have a common hobby with, And then, but it gives you a chance to do something in person with them. When somebody does something together, they learn it better, at least in my experience. But then, especially with family and close friends, you take like a stop the bleed or just the Red Cross first aid class, which is fairly basic. It's like, let's pop open a first aid kit and talk about what all the stuff is in it, what you would do with it. It's not like doctor level or like going to be touching people's testicles or anything weird. It's just,
Mhm.
how do you help people out? And here's some of the basic stuff. But I say that because a good tactical class will get into that kind of stuff. And a lot of people can't handle that. But a basic Red Cross stuff, super easy. Beyond that, though, you've got more classes that are available, like fire departments and local colleges and nursing schools and stuff. You can take more than just basic first aid. You can take some advanced stuff. You can take some wilderness stuff. You can take some emergency response stuff, which is super useful. Think of what's happening in California or what happened with the hurricanes and stuff. Like even if you're not in an area where that stuff happens on a regular, just being available, as a useful set of hands or whatever, eyes and hands in an emergency, totally worth it, right? But then you can, to get to what I think you were kind of alluding to, really, is the instructors who might do other kind of personal defense or something, but they probably are just medical instructors that are out there with all kinds of training and offering classes or courses that delve into everything up to probably EMT level, preparatory EMT level, or like hardcore wilderness first aid type of stuff. More like open up a tactical kit, a tactical medical kit, and talk about what you do with all that stuff instead of just band-aids kind of first aid kit.
Well, my whole thing is it's really annoying listening to these tactical guys, and I'm talking about many of them because nobody ever thinks they're going to take it out. Nobody ever thinks doing this great John Wick shootout in their house, with the four kids and the wife, that anybody in their family will get hurt. Uh, it's like, bro, if you're taking multiple firearms training classes because that's what you like to do, understand you're punching holes in people and things. And a lot of things could go sideways. You should really know how to stop the bleed. I mean, people take training for different reasons. I mean, I know a guy who's taken everything at what was it? What was the name of the one out in the desert? Ah, fudge knuckles.
Training, front sight.
Yeah, front sight. Took everything in front sight. Everything in front sight, but never took a medical class. And it's like, wait a minute, you know how to fight with a freaking full auto submachine gun, but you never thought to you, I don't know, would pass a car accident or be in one and have to save someone, or at least stop the bleeding or treat for shock. It's like, guys, come on. I
I
get it.
think they
You want
must
the
have had
course.
them there. I'm almost positive. They just if they didn't
Yeah.
have them in their, I think they did have them in the curriculum. I'd have to go look somehow. They're gone now. But
Yeah.
when you bring that up, that was awesome, dude. I remember when I first found out about that because I'm gonna take a
Hmm.
second. They one of the Doug, one of the guys from there back in like 2005 came into our forums and was talking shit about frontsight, and I was like, I didn't know what frontsight was from anybody. I wasn't into training or nothing back then. So, but I did know what a troll was or like a spammer was because we had those back in 2005s already. So he was in
Hmm.
there talking about frontside. I was like, hey, either put up or shut up. Like, what are you talking about? Like, get out of here with that. And he goes, oh, no, frontsight's so good. Come up here and train and you'll see what I'm talking about. And he gave us like big stack of like credits to go up there and train. So a couple of us went up there and literally took like a stack of classes. And that was their whole thing. Like, take a bunch of classes. We have this place out in the desert, and we can get into that sometime. Actually, their whole like business plan or their whole like culture, I don't know what to call it, like their whole community. I think that's probably the best
Hmm.
word. Even though it's like a nice way of saying it. Some people would say cult, but like
Yeah.
literally. But anyway, it was a really interesting training thing. It was very much ripped off from Gun Sight, which is in Prescott, Arizona, and that's
Uh-huh.
Cooper and everything, right? But this guy took it and made it kind of like Disneyland. But
Hmm.
people say kind of like Disneyland because there was full 360-degree shoot houses, but like four of them, I think. And not just one, like four of them. You had plenty of room. You would shoot the mile range, and the backstop was California. Like it was just a cool place. But anyway, so I'm out there, and that's the scenario. We're out there. We're like maybe our second time up there, like taking a bunch of classes. And the classes were, you take them with a grain of salt. They were what they were. Let's say that's the best way to describe them. But they were
Mm-hmm.
classes. Like they were classes, and they were different, but they were classes. We could have a whole discussion on this. But when I was in this
Oh, I had.
shotgun class, in the
Uh-huh.
shotgun class is when I discovered that, or I heard the story at least, that like the guy who created the place um, got the hankering. If I remember the story correctly, he just got the hankering. He did something. He got the hankering about Uzis. He just went out and bought like dozens of Uzis, full auto Uzis, and then at a class, here's full out, like you're saying, sub gun class,
Mm-hmm.
and you go there and you just take a. Can
Hold
you
on,
imagine going to a place? Just like
Doctor.
this, an armorer's rack of full auto Uzis. You grab one and you just sign it out, and you're like there for the week or whatever, shooting full auto Uzis. Probably from the hip, right? Like that's how you shoot a Uzi. Cool.
Well, I watched him run it. Remember on the YouTube videos they had Dr. Ignatius Piazzi. Wasn't that his name?
Yep, Ignatius Piazza or something.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Because I had actual free pass. I probably still have it in one of my wallets for a class at Front Sight. Uh, One of the guys that do work with us bought them because you could buy packages of free classes uh, with donations to Front Sight or buying your membership to Front Sight. And he actually gave me one. I just never could get out there. You know what I mean? I thought I couldn't get out there um, to take a class because, you got to travel, you got to have a firearm. All that stuff seemed insurmountable to me, but he gifted one. And I'm kind of upset I never got to use it, especially because I didn't know Front Sight would disappear. Um, but yeah, dude, I used to watch all of their videos. I was on their mailing list. I would get the whole thing, especially near the end when they were selling out, or because they did change owners right before it went bye bye. But they were telling me a lot of people like, oh, it's a hard sell for timeshares out there. That was supposedly a thing too.
Kind
And
of.
I'm like,
I mean, I guess
I'm like,
yes. I mean, I wouldn't just. You could definitely describe it that way. I'm not trying to not describe it that way, but a
mm-hmm,
time like so. Imagine a really big room, like a really big room. So a normal movie theater has I don't know how many rows and seats, but like not the huge movie theaters you've ever been in, but like a normal movie theater you're going to see a regular movie in. Take
mm-hmm,
three of those and stick them in one giant thing, right? So now it's this big rectangle room. It's like an auditorium room, I guess. Maybe it's not that big. I might be crazy. It might be. Anyway, it was this giant room, and they had a stage in the center, and then around, and that was like in this. Let's say that was the center of the place, and then you'd go to take, depending on if you were taking rifle classes or shotgun classes or pistol classes. Obviously, you're going to be in a different kind of bay, right? Pistol bays are way smaller and closer together, and they have like tables and stuff under like roofs because it's sunny. It's the middle of the Nevada desert. They'd have
mm-hmm,
tables for the classroom part when you're just talking or reloading and stuff, and those would be closer or further away from the firing lines, depending on what kind of guns you're shooting. And they had the facilities to do probably, I'm trying to think, like 5, 10 pistol classes at once, and then another 10 ranges that could be pistol or carbine. And then you got, I don't know, 20 ranges that were just rifle, like long range 100-yard plus. And these are bays of lanes, like not just, like 10 lanes, like I'm talking 10 bays of 10 lanes. Like this is a huge place. And then they had the mile-long sniper range. They had canyons with steel targets in them for both shotgun and rifle, or it must have been shotgun and rifle. But imagine walking down like I forget, like quarter mile of canyon, just in the Nevada desert. But instead of just shooting at rocks and stuff, you got like steel targets all around that you're shooting at. And then there's zip lines and all kinds of other stuff, and I think ATV classes and things like that. So it was a massive, and then the whole thing had tunnels underneath of it, and you could do
oh
SWAT
shit,
training and stuff in the tunnels and everything. So it was this massive, massive facility. But in the middle of it was this, and then I forgot about the shoot houses. They're 360-degree shoot houses, kind of right in the middle of the parking lot area, or like around the parking lot area. You can go just look at the aerial view; it's all still there. Um, but anyway, so it's massive, and there's big buildings in the middle of it. You'd go to take a class, right? So they check you in a very weird way, like in an annoying way. A lot of people couldn't deal with it, but they're gonna have you walk up there and take the gun out of your holster and fiddle with it and then put it back in your holster. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, you've been in the military or something, you can handle stuff like that. Maybe if you've been
Yeah.
stopped by some police, you could handle stuff like that. A lot of people
Hmm.
can't handle stuff like that. But
Oh,
and
okay.
that's just weird that they're going to make everybody do it. If I remember, it was something to that effect, right? Something that was like, this is weird, but I guess I'll deal with it. And then cold range, so I don't like that. So that means uh, guns are empty unless you're up to the range.
Hmm.
I'd rather have a hot
Yep.
range where everybody's just an adult. But
Yep.
whatever, here and there. But then very very military-ish in that way, or more like probably like police academy-ish. Because military, they would yell at you. Police academy or like security guard school, they're not going to yell at you. I don't think, right? Like you're going there to have a job. You're not going there to get whatever.
Yeah.
Like
You're not going there because you have to be immune to firefights in high stress environments. It's like, no,
yeah.
dude, I'm just asking for IDs at the front desk,
So yeah,
and I
exactly.
have
They're
the
not like
ability to
yelling
carry
at
a
you, but there's
firearm.
definitely procedures and there's a lot of lines and there's like this
Hmm.
procedure that the newest person goes through and the person that's been there 70 times is going through. So it's kind of like
Hmm.
going to summer camp. I've been to summer camp a lot of times, and the same thing, like little kids and then the kids that have been there going to summer camp their whole lives, are both going through the same, like, you got to take all your stuff out of your bag and make sure that nobody brought alcohol and that kind of dumb shit. So, so you go in there and you do all this, and then you're doing the class, and the class will be very structured because there's so many classes going on. But it'll be like
Hmm.
2 hours of shooting, and then an hour in that classroom or whatever you call that giant auditorium room, and then 2 hours of shooting and an hour in that auditorium room. And that auditorium room is where people are going to say it's like timeshare. The training
Hmm.
was just a it's like if somebody made a carbon copy of gun sights training and then flipped it over in the copy machine and made it backwards, kind of like it's very
Oh
close, but
wow.
not quite the same. Like it was very,
Hmm.
very close to the curriculum, though. So the training part, I don't think too many people had a problem with, other than it's like order and it's like again, very much like a security guard training class would be. Like, okay, everybody stands up, everybody's going to do this, or you're going to do this one at a time, or something like that. Where a lot of classes are more chill, and when it's just some guy you paid $200 to, he's not going to be like, no, everybody stand up and do this one at a time. Like that's just, I mean, I don't know of any instructors that do any of that kind of stuff, but unless you're at a school, right? Like Sig's Academy might be like that for all I know. I have no idea. But anyway, so you go to these hour long, 2 hour long sessions in the middle of your firearms class, and they would be first they would be like, you should join Front Sight. It's so awesome, and you can come up anytime you want. And I mean, really, I think it was a good deal. Really, I don't know what it
Hmm.
costs anymore, but I mean, I never had to pay because the guy gave us so many like free things to go. They gave them away like water when they wanted people to join in or whatever. But it might have been like $1,000 a year or some number. Like it was probably a
Hmm.
little bit of money, but it was like when you think about actually coming up here and using it, it's again like probably a year past to Disneyland. If you go there once, yeah, it's a ripoff. But if you go to Disneyland on a regular basis, it's probably not. So it's all about if you can get there or not, right? So if you lived
Yeah.
driving distance from it, it was a massive deal. And that's what most of us thought because it was a massive deal. We could drive up there anytime we wanted. But I guess if you lived in like New York, yeah, it might not be such a good deal to be paying $1,000 a month for something you go to twice a year. But on the other hand,
Exactly.
if you lived in New York and you got no experience like that, and that was your Disneyland, it probably was worth $12,000 to be able to be part of that or whatever. But the thing is, you
Yeah, but
could go
then
up there
other
and just do the stuff anytime you wanted, really, and that was the neat part. It was,
that
there was a lot
that
of
was the
stuff to
cool
do.
part, but it was there, and that's what got me. I'm like, dude. And then more and more schools and academies started opening up, and more people started training, and then more rangers started popping up. So all of a sudden, there was competition locally. I didn't have to go to the other side of the country. You know, it's like,
That's
yeah,
true. Like it did monopolize that for a bit. It was sort of like, well, I don't want to say it's like Henry, but it like for a minute there, Henry was like, you thought lever guns, you think Henry because they had so many commercials. You probably
hmm
thought firearms training, you thought front sight for a while because, like you say, for a bit there in the early internet days, they
yep,
really just plastered the internet with stuff. But the thing is, I don't want to over since we're talking about it, the auditorium room stuff kind of was weird. It's hard to explain. It was like that hard sell or push that people would say it's like a timeshare because they were
Mhm.
like, well, I mean, you're there and they have a huge facility and they wanted more. And the only way to get more is to have more people join. Obviously, it's capitalism. And I
Mhm.
don't think I mean, they were in the middle of nowhere. They are in the middle of nowhere. And
Yeah.
they had a gift shop or whatever, not a gift shop, a pro shop, and everything was expensive in the pro shop. Oh my,
Mhm.
like where have you ever been that the pro shop didn't, everywhere has
Yeah.
expensive stuff in the pro shop. And that's
Yeah.
usually because like, oh, I forgot my holster. Well, we have one here and it's $70 instead of $50. Like, oh no. Like
Mhm.
the people that were there really didn't care. But when people would complain about it online, they cared about it. But aside from that, it was like that hard push. But for me, it was I've never been like this, and this probably didn't help nothing. But I had to watch, like, I don't seek out videos of crimes ever. Like, I had to watch some of
Mhm.
that stuff in classes for doing things back in the day or something. But, like, I don't like looking at stuff. I've seen real life stuff. I don't need to see videos of
Mhm.
people getting hurt and just criminals being assholes. And there was a lot
Yeah.
of that. And I felt like that was, I don't know if it's brainwashing. If somebody hated the place, they'd call it brainwashing. I thought it was pandering to people who, like were already maybe paranoid or worried about stuff more
Yep.
than they needed to be. Like I'm going to learn how to use a gun because I like it and you might need it, but I'm not worried
Yeah.
about it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like I don't wake up and go, oh crap, where's my gun? Okay, I got my gun. Now I can make up and get to go
Yeah.
take a piss or whatever. Not worry about getting jumped. I'm not like and there's not that you're allowed to be that way. I don't care, but they're on that spectrum, whatever. This felt like it was like just in case you're not all worried about it. Look how bad people can be. And I don't need that. Just like if I'm at a first aid class, I don't
Well,
need somebody to go. You see what an arterial bleed looks like? Some people will be like, you need to know what an arterial bleed looks like. I'm like, I don't need to see something die. You don't have to kill a pig in front of me so I can see what it died. Like I understand it could be pretty horrible, and yeah, it's going to be slippery, so there's going to be blood everywhere. Like we can move on. Like they were showing a lot of stuff that I didn't need to see, as far as like criminals and security cameras and stuff. I don't know how many people had objections to that as much as the like hard sell, like, hey, look at the awesome facilities here, and we'd like to make it even better. They had like a big model, like at a time that was definitely like a timeshare. Like how they'll have like a big or like actually a big tiny model of like how the hotel might be if they had enough timeshare people.
mhm.
They had that. Like, here's
Yep.
how big
I
it is
saw
now.
that.
Look how big it could be.
Then I saw the one with the founders bricks with your name on it and your donations. It was I remember that one. Supposedly like the sidewalk or a wall, and it would have your name on it if you donated a certain amount. I mean, it didn't again. It was a free trip. I mean, not a free trip, but a free training class. But it was like, uh, how much of it is this? How much of it is that?
Now, as far as the class goes, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I kept going up there. I thought it was good. It was nice going up there as media because I didn't have to pay nothing. And again, I didn't have much
Mhm.
money at the time. I was probably making some money, so I could have paid for it probably. But it was always good to getting something for nothing type of thing. We still had to get our ass up there and be there for a week in the middle of nowhere. But and that means going to a hotel out in the middle of nowhere. But like I say, we kept doing
Yes,
it.
that one hotel. That one hotel. Like, no, I mean, I
Exactly.
was serious about going. I looked at every aspect of going, and it was just like, how much is a flight out there? Where do you get the gun? Do I use their rental firearms? Like, because I didn't know how to fly with a firearm. You know what I mean? Especially out of an anti-gun state where they're looking at you like, what are you doing with a firearm?
Yeah, because
And
again, they're
especially
concerned
back in
about
the
it.
day, yeah, yeah, this. Yeah. So it's like, what are you doing with a firearm? And what do you mean you're flying out to a training class? People train for this? It was like it was different. It's funny because, what was it, 10, 15 years ago? It was like a completely different world. Awareness is weird.
Woods was saying you
I'm
were
gonna fly
breaking up,
out
and
today.
I'm actually hearing you break up a little bit.
Oh, hold on. All right, there you go. Yeah, like I'm flying to Florida in February, I'm not as upset or nervous as I was, last February when I flew down to Florida for the Ambassador Academy, because I've broken that cherry in Jersey, flying with a firearm. Um, when I went down to Tennessee, I traveled with a firearm and flew out then. So, all right, I get it now. I've flown out of Trenton, I've flown out of Newark. This is what
You
it's
know, and
like
honestly, with
traveling with a firearm.
all the people they had, members or whatever you'd call them, there was tons,
Hmm.
like a ton. And that's one of the other complaints is people had a problem with just how many members there were. And then members didn't really care. Like I say, at first it was like, wow, I get to come out here and shoot whenever I want. I don't remember if it was $1,000 a month. Well, let's say it was, because that would have been a lot of money back then for sure. Still a lot of money.
Hmm.
Um, but even if it was a lot like that, nobody had like, it wasn't like a gym membership where you had to be a member. People were members, but then what happened was like what you said, like other instructors happened and they created either like, they would work at ranges or they had their own ranges, their own facilities and stuff. So people had options. And as soon as they had options and they got online and looked around, they were like, oh man, we've been paying $1,000 a month and I could have done this for like $300 for the
Hmm.
year at my local range. Like now I'm mad. Where six
Yep.
months ago you weren't mad because you didn't know there was an option. I think there was a level of that. I don't want to again justify nothing because they did probably, I don't know what happened up there, but it definitely didn't last forever. I'll just end it talking about it is that it did get me sparked. Like I had up until then, I'd known that there was firearms training. In fact, I'd seen like places come to Tucson and I didn't pay attention. I wish I would have after the fact. But anyway, I never really paid it much thought because my experience with firearms training was hunter's ed, which is a whole nother story, right?
Hmm.
Military stuff, scouts, but like some kind of thing like that, right? And a little bit of police stuff. So just a little tiny dabble of police stuff, like police explorers type of shit. And so
Hmm.
I've just seen, like what police ranges and then, paying attention. So watching magazines and stuff and kind of getting whatever we could get out of like SWAT magazine and that kind of thing. But for me, firearms training was just like you'd think of first aid training. You need to, like Woods is talking about here, you need to certify this many hours a year in order to
Hmm.
qualify. If you want to do SWAT, maybe you have to do more. So it's like, okay, I'm going to train even more. So I'm going to go to the range and shoot at a target even longer. You didn't think about like I'm going to do different things or I'm going to go to rifle training. Like there was no nuance to training or whatever until this stuff started to hit. And then once it hit, I mean, that's a whole nother cool part of guns that I hope the new gun people end up with. But anyway, I was just going to say that started me off with understanding that gun training was a thing. I came back and told the internet, hey, I went up to Front Sight, right? And everybody, I got
Hmm.
the spectrum of answers from cool to holy crap, I can't believe you went to that place. They suck and they're a scam. And then
Hmm.
once I started looking around, I'm like, okay, so there's options. I didn't know that. And I went, oh crap, a bunch of the options come to Tucson for like 4 or 5 reasons. A lot of cool stuff came to Tucson, not just Arizona. So I
Hmm.
started going to, long story short, I went to as many as I could and figured out where Front Sight is in the spectrum, and give it what it's worth, or, give it the credit it's worth. But you started bringing it up with the Uzi thing, and that just brought back a bunch of, and that's what we do on the show, I guess, is recollect a little bit. Brought me back to some of those initial experiences with gun training, firearms training specifically, and then I guess I should say uh, defensive firearms training is a better way to say it. But then
Hmm.
that got me really interested in just firearms training, period. And then luckily the variety of stuff that came to Tucson let me start to see things from like, maybe AK specific to rifle training to people who are learning competition stuff versus people that are learning, shit hits the fan versus people. Remember for a while there was people that wanted to go protect the border, help border patrol.
Hmm.
So, all
Yep.
kinds of people would show up to classes in Tucson. So that for years, that was my passion is to just go to classes. If you go to afteraction.net, that's my website where I put all the classes and stuff. And I would go on weekends if I wasn't training or going to, I wasn't training because I couldn't afford to shoot all the time, but I would go audit these classes and just show up and review them for the internet essentially. And if I wasn't there, I was at a CCW class. So I really, really enjoyed the different um, like ways that instructors teach and the ways that they're like what their curriculums even are, and then the kind of questions the students ask. It was really neat to experience gun ownership in that time from 2005 to 2009 or so when YouTube started, because it kind of crapped out when YouTube started for me. I just got interested in other things. But we're living in that time right now. Like at that time, it was just people realizing that CCW training is a thing. Like Masada Ayub was like coming into his own, right? That kind of thing. Well, now you've got all these new people who are gun owners as adults, and CCW is like, we got CCW in 29 states, right? Or constitutional carry in 29 states, concealed carry in every single state. So people are coming into it with like, yeah, I want to conceal carry. How do I conceal carry with a suppressor? You know, like there's a, it's like there's a whole nother revival or whatever you want to say, like surge in not just interest, but like participation in these classes. And the number of instructors, I don't even know, like compared to in 2005 era, how many instructors there might have been back then. You could count them, like literally. That's what Minuteman does, is like count the number of those original instructors, because as I was going around, I knew the ones I was going to were like tactical for the most part. Everybody would just call them tactical, but like I wouldn't call Jaeger tactical. Like he had some tactical classes, and that's what people remember. But he was 100 times practical. Like he was just a CCW instructor on steroids. Like like way more in depth than a standard CCW class. But it was really just for CCW people. But anyway, those classes came from like the first. That's what I would say, at least, because he was all about mindset. He was really just mindset. And well, I guess I could say it now. Like back in the day, he wouldn't want people to talk about. I still won't talk about some of the things because I don't really know what they're doing for the classes now. But at the end of the class or whatever, like the scenarios and stuff, they wouldn't want people to address too much. But he would take it from, you had a scenario, like for example, for a force on force class, at least. That was one of my favorites to attend. You'd go into a bunch of scenarios. You'd have like 10 students show up, 10 to 20. And there's like a scenario. You have ideally some sort of a building or something you can have a scenario in, and a shoot house or a warehouse or even just some walls at a shooting range or something. But you have simunition guns, and you have a scenario. You're eating lunch and something happens. You're at an ATM and something happens. You're getting gas and something happens. Normal situations that you might encounter a problem with. And then everybody in the class runs through it. I don't know, like a lot of classes, if they're going to run you all the way through the courtroom, like a lot of classes are just like, okay, draw. Okay, you should have ran backwards, or like, shot placement was good, but like you should have reacted faster. Next, like with Jaegers, it was like, now you're going to jail, and now you're going to court, and like you got to experience a lot of immediate. I mean, a lot. Yeah, it took the time out of it all. But anyway, I'm going to quit talking because I have no idea if they're still doing the classes, and I don't want to. That's more than spoiling it. That's the kind of slap in the face of like realism that like most people aren't going to anticipate, or some people couldn't deal with it. But anyway, so these classes were way more in depth than just how fast you can pull the trigger or how accurately you can shoot at a target or something. And I don't know what the new classes, based, like I was saying, like the original classes were kind of how fast you can draw. Like front sight was all about, let's get you to shoot 2 shots in 1.5 seconds or some shit, or 5 seconds. I don't remember how fast it was, but it was all about how fast you could draw accurately. And then, a little bit about, let's make a decision, and they did some stuff like, I guess I can talk about theirs too. Like they'll have you, they'll have a hostage target. They'll have you write the name of a significant other on the target. And, as a single dude, it's not that big a deal, but for everybody there was married, everybody there with kids, that that was a significant situation for them. Like I'm talking, it was significant. Like people had a whole nother, just that simple act, right? Was significant for people. Imagine writing that on the hostage part, and now you're trying to shoot the eyeballs of that guy who's holding on to that person. Anyway, so some of that stuff, is pretty intense, but I don't know. I'm just saying that front sight got me started on that, and I really enjoyed the experience of seeing the community, because I only got to see it from the people in Tucson, but I got to see the development of the classes and the type of people that showed up and why and how the classes would swell, different reasons. We had a fairly, what did you say, like free time of firearms laws. Like nobody was bugging us for the most part until 2013, really. So it was like a pretty good time of growth. Now we don't have that opportunity now because we're definitely getting attacked and stuff now. But like I say, with the new swell of gun owners and just gun owners coming of age that had the internet, right? Like kids that were born in 2001 or 2000 are 25 freaking years old. They've had a gun for a couple of years now. They're on their third gun, and they just had their whole, even if they're, cares how long they've owned guns, really, they've had the internet their whole lives. So their level of gun knowledge compared to ours when we were young, crazy. I can't imagine. I didn't know shit
dude,
about compared to what the kids
what were
25 years.
we'd wait for the magazines to come out once a month. If we were lucky, if we could afford the magazines, I would get used ones. And that was the only reason I have a bunch of them at one time. But other than that, yeah, you're waiting every month for a magazine. At least I did. And then you read it until the pages fall apart. You lost the cover of the book. It was like, now, man, click on YouTube videos and just fall down a rabbit hole. And so your knowledge can be a heck of a lot more than we had. And those people now, they're being born and raised. I just met a 25-year-old cop yesterday and we had a discussion. Now they're in a place where there's 50 state legal carry. I mean, you may have to jump through a whole bunch of freaking hoops, but there's a chance that you could carry in your state and it's not freaking weird anymore. You're not that nut job. You know what I mean? You're not that nut job anymore. You're just another person that wants to carry. But there are classes for your local range now. It's not you have to travel to Massachusetts to Lethal Force Institute, or the other one was Gun Sight, and that was it. And then it was what the heck did we just finish talking about? Front Sight. But it was Gun Sight, Front Sight, Lethal Force Institute, and I don't even know if depends on what year, Thunder Ranch, maybe. Because
I got
Thunder
them all
Ranch is
written down somewhere in order. And it's kind of tough to figure it out. And I had to piece it together from just kind of listening to interviews with people, and they'd kind of recollect, and I'd go, oh shit. And I'd make some notes. But I think the best thing to do is probably sit down with an instructor and have them try to remember. But yeah, you're right. And then Lethal Force Institute was still just Moss going to places. I don't think he ever had like Gun Sight where it's, an actual place. Like he would just, like what you're doing, essentially just have a hookup with a range and get some time, like a lot of instructors do, and then create and hold a class in their classroom and then go to their range.
And then you had Valhalla. Yeah, a lot of law enforcement. Then you had Valhalla out in Colorado, and that's where Pincus came up at. Pincus trained there and trained people there before he became his own.
Let's see. But I was going to say with the magazines too, we only had in the magazines 12 articles or 8 articles or whatever they decided to include. So it wasn't like it was the magazines included or told us about everything that was happening. They just told us about what they decided to tell us about, and it was probably pay to play back then.
Definitely pay to play back then.
So I've got this thing going on Gun Shop Guide. Like say I try to make notes, and the websites are my notes. So that list there is just the logos of all of them in alphabetical, or oh shit, it is just all I got. I guess this is in chronological. So I'm guessing it comes from back here. No, we must go this way. Are these chronological? They can't be. The site, Shaw, no, they're not. But it started out with, maybe it starts here. You've got Camp Perry, so we can't forget your neck of the woods. And then what was before Camp Perry? The one in New Jersey. There was one before Camp Perry, and then
New York was Creedmoor.
Creedmoor? No, New York was Creedmoor, and then it went to something in New Jersey.
Oh, I
But
wasn't
that
aware
was
of that.
oh yeah, yeah. You had, and it's still there. It's, am I going to say it in here? Um, yeah, I don't know where I've got that. Oh, I probably have that on Minuteman actually, because I know that I'm missing stuff in this one. But essentially, but in this site at least, it went Camp Perry from 1906. But like I say, it came from two other sites, and that was the NRA. Then you had
Mm-hmm.
Gun Sight coming around in 1976, Mid
Mm-hmm.
South Institute of Self Defense in
Mm.
1981. Then you had Lethal Force Institute in 1981 also. USA Shooting gets put, that's our Olympics. That place gets built in 1985. Now they had existed before then, but that's when they became an actual facility. You got Rogers School in
Mm-hmm.
1986, Insight in 1990. So Rogers was like, was that Kentucky or Memphis or something? And then Insight was Washington State. Thunder Ranch happens in 1993. Then the
Mm.
Thompson Long Range in 1995. 6 Hour Academy happens in 96. Range Master, which is a massive piece of our history of CCW stuff,
Yeah.
1996. Tactical Response, 1996. Front Sight, 1996. What all happened in 1996? Something, right? Academy, which I think would become Blackwater, is 1998. The Universal Shooting Academy is another big one, came next, and then Shiv Works in 2003. Masad Ayub, well, I won't get into his personal life,
Mm-hmm.
changes it to Masad Ayub Group in 2009. This
Mm-hmm.
K&M shooting complex happens in 2011. Shaw shooting, these become veterans that start setting up shooting for long range. A lot of these. The site
Oh,
is a
Daniel Shaw.
Blackwater
Yeah.
site. Yeah, that's long range, right?
But
The
Daniel.
site is a old Blackwater site that turns public in 2014. They did a couple of what is Sean's? Sean had a shoot for a while. I went to one of his at the site. That one's in Illinois. Then Tulsa built one. I have a little story, personal story at this particular training center, police range. Then I woke up. This asshole tells me, "Meet me at this range, this public range at whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm driving into Tulsa nonstop, so I'm gonna get there and meet you at that range." And he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna get there late." And I'm like, "All right, I'll just get there and take a nap." So I get to the range, and I think I'm at the range, and I think I'm parking in the parking lot of the range, and I think I'm taking a nap. And the next thing I know, there's probably like 5 cops in the van, like guns in my face,
Uh-huh.
and they're pulling me out. And I'm like standing there half naked with my pants around my knees, uh, handcuffed, and they're like, "What the fuck are you doing in our range?" And it turns out I was at the police range, but not at the regular shooting range. So that was fun.
Oh, damn. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I guess
Sounds
I
like
thought some kind of weird shit was happening. Anyway, walked away handshakes with, sorry, didn't know who you were, kind of thing. Anyway, then Bass Pro Shop started theirs in 2014, and then Crosswind. I might be missing some, so let me know, but these are essentially the instructors who created shooting schools that I found in my time or whatever, taking notes and stuff.
I just know, some of the major ones, Rogers Shooting School, Moss's thing back when it was up.
Oh,
Because, I
I
mean,
haven't been showing
back,
that on the screen. I was sitting
yeah,
here
no.
going through these all,
Mm.
sorry.
Yeah. I still remember because I actually wrote and got a catalog from Lethal Force Institute. Uh, like I had that in paperback. I mean, I really wish I had it now so I could get Moss to sign it because I think it'd be hilarious. But that was from back in the day. I had their curriculum. I also had the one from Frontside and their printed curriculum because I was always wanting to take that stuff, but I didn't. And now, I mean, it's a different world. So you have a heck of a lot more opportunities now for new shooters getting into it, a whole different mentality. I mean, when it was only a handful of schools, it was mostly cops and military dudes. And that changed. It's like, what are you doing here as a civilian? Oh, I was in the Marine Corps. Oh, okay, cool. That makes sense. But it's like, oh no, I'm just in the guns. What a weirdo. But
All right,
that
so I guess I have them over here on the shooting range. Hold on. I have them over here on the shooting range page. Let me go down and have them in a list down here. So Creedmoor, like you said,
hmm
Schuetzen Park, and then Seagirt. Seagirt is one I
Oh,
couldn't think of. 32 acres
Seagirt.
in New Bergen, New Jersey.
Oh no, Seagirt is where the Department of Corrections and State Police Academy are.
Okay, well,
That's
that turned
yeah.
out that was after Creedmoor. And then when well, I don't know how big Creedmoor was, but it was in New York. It was 70 acres, but
hmm
it was on Long Island or something, right? So they were like, how about you
hmm
leave? So the NRA was like, all right, we'll go to Seagirt. That was
hmm
148 acres. And then they're like, get out of here. And then they're like, okay, we're going to go to Camp Perry, which is 300 acres. And that's where they still are. Well, no, actually, then they went to Talladega, right? After a
Oh.
while. I mean, they're still at whatever I just said. They're still at Camp Perry, but they're also
hmm
at Talladega. And that's, I forgot, this is my more complete list over on Minuteman.
So
And
what
that
was
one
this
was
Seagirt?
in our 100 and something acres. Oh, it was
Oh,
the NRA range after Creedmoor and before Camp Perry.
oh, okay.
It was for a number of years. I'll go back and look at the number of years as soon as I ever find. Oh, is it this one? No, Cardinal is that one in Ohio. The uh, the the one at Talladega is actually fairly new. Like it's just in the last couple of years. So it's going to be way at the end of this dang list. There it is. CMP Talladega is 500 acres, and that didn't happen until 2012. But if I go back up here till, so it was Creedmoor, 70 acres, then Schuetzen Park, which was in New Jersey also, North Bergen, New Jersey. And that
hmm
was, I've seen pictures of it now. Like that's right underneath of like city right now. Like it was right in the middle of prime town, so they wouldn't let you have that, I guess. Um,
Oh hell no. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm pulling up this thing on
Seagirt.
Seagirt.
It was built in 1889 and then it lasted till 1907. So for a number of years, almost 20 years, right? They had 22 targets that were canvas with oval rings, and they had 2,000-yard firing points. They had revolver matches there, the Schuetzen matches there. There's now a museum located on the grounds, I guess, 60 miles from New York, maintained by the New Jersey State Rifle Association. They say the
Hmm.
marine buoys marking the boundary are still there. And that was in 1903, the first natural matches with 1,000 competitors. Or September was or in 1903 was the first match with 1,000 competitors.
Wow.
And then 1907, they were like, we need more room, so they moved to Ohio.
Can you imagine the shooting positions they were doing that crazy supine prone where you laid on your back
Yep.
and dudes out there in like business suits shooting? That's pretty cool. Yeah, all that's gone now. They'd never do that crap in Jersey because somehow they don't think any of this is important until it's important, and then they want to jump in a time machine and go back or instantly give people skills. That's the most ridiculous crap I've ever seen. When we were talking about training, when we were looking at what was it, the Ukraine? Oh yeah, they're passing out AK-47s to civilians in the Ukraine. Well, that's because they failed. They had no shooting culture. You know, you're waiting till the Soviet Union's invading, and then all of a sudden you want to teach marksmanship skills to citizens. Get out of here. That's called creating fodder. You don't really care about these people. You're just trying to buy time and use your civilians to do it. I bought that up in one of the somewhere online. I was like, this is a failure. This is a failure of your government to take the fact that they're beside the Soviet Union seriously, even post Crimea in 2014. You didn't change your stance on civilian firearms ownership when you lost a portion of your country. I'm like, that's why in America we need to freaking push this firearms culture, the Second Amendment, and how important it could be because you have no idea how this can go sideways. and we'll never get invaded. We are blah 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 yabba dabba do. Meanwhile, you have I mean, there's actual, there was an actual building that got taken over by gangs just in one city alone, and we got to see ring doorbell footage of what it looked like. And then all of a sudden, the government scrambles to say that didn't exist and it wasn't like that. Meanwhile, you know what I'm talking about in Colorado, right?
Hmm.
In Colorado, when the gang took over a housing.
That was only
Uh,
5 or 6 blocks, Tony.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I'm like, and then you denied it happened.
It's only 5 or 6 buildings. It's no big deal.
It's only a few buildings, but according to a friend of mine that lives within walking distance of there, he was like, "Yeah, we all know. We've watched it. We watched the town change over, and there's just gangs here, and police drive around, on eggshells. But it's all made up. It's all a lie. Um, so
Well, hold
you'll
on.
never
So
know if
Jonathan Water had brought up the Whittington Center. So since we're nerding out, I just wanted to
Mhm.
go. That's right. Like that one happened in New Mexico, and that's like the largest thing now as far as
Oh yeah, it's
acreage.
huge.
But without getting into a sidetrack there, going back to what you just said, look at what's happening. I heard on probably Instagram, I think, maybe X, because both of them are a lot of people talking about the news of the day. But the fires happen in California, people get evacuated. I guess there's been roving groups of kids, whatever, kids, gang members, whatever you want to call them, running around, but organized, running in, grabbing everything, looting. I mean, that's not
Hmm.
like that looting after a thing is a thing, but I suspect uh, might be more violent than in the past. I don't want to claim that it is necessarily. It might have been just as much violent in the past. Because I'm guessing if you're willing to go loot, you know that you're going to be going in and stealing stuff, right? And at a
Hmm.
time when you think it's opportune because you're doing it, but you got to expect the homeowners, some other homeowner, do-gooder, right, vigilante type of person, right, could be
Hmm.
there, plus the cops. So you figure how many looters are out there like, well, I could get busted and go to jail, or I could loot. Like I'm guessing they're probably like, I'm going to loot or go down blasting, right? Like I would suspect that if they're out there looting, they're loaded for bear. And
Well, the whole
just
thing
saying,
is you don't know. You don't know what
well,
looter.
you can't.
Okay, is this? Yeah, is this looter just taking advantage of a situation? And the minute you go, hey, in a loud voice, they run out of the door because oh my goodness, they almost got caught. Or is it somebody that goes, no, you probably there by yourself, and you definitely don't have the ability to call 911. And this is California. I'm willing to bet you don't have a legal firearm in the house,
Yep.
because the overall attitude. So 911 ain't showing up. And you can say, hey, all you want, Chief, but I'm pretty much figuring the only one with a gun in this house is me, the bad guy. And there,
So
ta-da, you're a victim.
I'm guessing that. Well, I know that North Carolina was also like smaller towns and people by themselves in valleys and stuff, but I'm guessing there's probably a lot less potential for looting when you don't know
Smaller pocket,
how armed to the teeth that person may or may not be.
well, a smaller town, lesser population, and the roads were jacked up, so it was hard to travel.
That's true too.
Um, but California, no, there's only fire and evacuation. Everybody's not evacuated, but enough people are that you can steal their stuff. Um, my whole thing is when it comes to survival in those situations, you're on your own. And that's why training is important, not only just in how to pull a trigger, like we were talking about, but tactics themselves, like how to be back from a window and you don't stick the gun out the window like you're fighting in the movie The Alamo, where you can look and see everybody's barrel sticking out the window of the, you know what I mean, of the bedroom.
Yep.
Um, Things like that. Things like when it's time to shoot, you don't talk. Uh, Bad guys usually travel in packs because it makes it easier to get in, grab a whole bunch of stuff, and get out. There's not one dude running around with a backpack like Escape from
It's way more
Tarkov.
intimidating too. People are going to back off when there's 3 or 4 dudes running in versus one guy running
Hmm. And also, when no one's concerned about how much noise they make breaking into your house, Well, that's great that you have a solid lock on the door, but your patio door in the back, it's all glass. I don't care if I throw the picnic table through it. You know what I'm saying? They're like you didn't proof for that. People don't understand that, yeah, yeah, your
Garage
windows.
doors or paper, right? Like garage doors ain't nothing. People just don't want, like you say, they don't want to make noise.
Yeah, they don't want to
Garage
make noise. Well,
door,
I don't
post
care
office,
about making noise. Yeah, I don't care about making noise if the neighborhood's been abandoned. So did you prepare for that? It's a lot of that, but when you watch it, oh, and one of the things I was talking about, while watching the attitude of the criminal element change when the laws about carry change, I, in my time doing defensive firearms training, defensive firearms podcast, and all that stuff, watching Detroit come online when Michigan became a freaking constitutional carry, and doing the podcast I did, it was like, oh my god. Uh, Now, from the outside, when you're looking at the numbers, because always when a state legalizes concealed carry, the anti-gun forces run around talking about there's going to be blood in the streets and an increased number of shootings. Well, that actually happened in Michigan. Number of shootings went up because the crime was already high in Detroit of violent criminals. And when finally regular people could arm themselves and started shooting back, you had a whole bunch of shootings because there was a learning curve. That FA, was it FOFA? That was a severe learning curve that the people breaking in the houses and cars and the violent criminals, because there are not a lot of them, ended up getting shot and killed. And then all of a sudden there was this uptick in violent crime. Blood's running in the streets. No, no, just bad guys were getting shot by citizens that were now legally armed and carrying. And then crime went down. Like it lasted like maybe months. It didn't even last a year. It lasted months. And then the criminal element found something else to do, or they were shot. They were either dead in the hospital, excuse me, dead or in jail in the hospital. Then it was not all of a sudden, there was no guarantee who was armed when grandmoms are strapped. And you don't have to be that good as a civilian firearms owner, that you need to take. You don't have to be John Wick to shoot a criminal that doesn't suspect that your 78-year-old grandma has a Smith and Wesson bodyguard on.
well, that's what it's all about, and it's the what do they say? The what's the word for that? The dang, I can't think of the word until I try to not think of it. But the I keep thinking distraction, but it's not distraction. But the um, there's no reason for a bad guy to become a bad guy when they don't know who might be able to use lethal force. As long as it's
Oh,
societally
deterrent.
deterrent,
Deterrent.
thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The deterrent factor is there, and it's never taken into effect. They say, like you say, blood in the streets. We probably will have blood in the streets because so many people have guns. Because you gun people are crazy. Who knows when you're going to go flying off the handle and start lethally killing each other. But the reality is that the thing that then I want to talk about, that I think you're mentioning really, is the deterrent, right? And then once the community, once the bad guys essentially know that, hey, it's cool here, like the victims aren't going to get sent to jail, because there's places where the bad guys know that they could get shot, but they know that more than often the person that shot them is going to jail longer than them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they're not too
Yep.
worried about it. It's not that big a thing, because the same thing, people that would shoot them know the same thing, so they're probably going to hesitate before they even shoot them. So anyway, once they know that that's not a thing, like, just the same they say in Texas, like, probably takes a lot more balls to be a bad guy in Texas than it does in some states, right? Because you don't know what's going on with that victim.
Yeah.
If they're even going to
Yeah.
be
In
a victim.
Texas, because in Texas, you can shoot somebody to protect property. Now, all of a sudden, that's a whole new game.
Is that the way
Like,
it was? I can't remember if
yeah.
that was the way it is. Because yeah, I'm down with that. That's one of those things that back in the early days of having debates, when I would still, when we still had debates, because they were still fresh. Like, I don't really have the debates anymore, because nobody really has them. Honestly, for a while there, I quit having them because they were just going on and on. But back in the early days of them, that was always my position. That I think you should be able to have lethal force for property, essentially for that deterrent effect, but also because I
Yep.
don't think it's the victim's obligation to have to know what you're doing in their house. Like if you're coming, like the bad guy can go, "Oh, I just came in to steal a stereo." Well, you didn't know that. Like, what if they're coming in to rape you? You didn't know that. What if they're
Yeah.
coming in to kill you, step on your throat when you're sleeping? Like, the victim doesn't have to know. Like, how can they know? So, stop all intrusions with lethal force. Good to go. That's what Texas says essentially. And some people would say, "Oh no, they're not coming in there with intent to harm you if they didn't have guns and stuff. If they, they were only holding the stereo." Like, well, what if they were going to grab the stereo and smash you over the head with it? Like, how do you know? Like, you don't have to, you can't have foresight. It's not like you knew what the outcome was. But
Well, it's always
challenge.
it's always people that have the hindsight of 2020 that are telling you what someone else's intent is. And that's what always bothered me about it. Yeah, I'm not shooting to protect. And hold on. How about this? Yes, the hell I am shooting to protect my property. All right. I have to go to work after this. I need a vehicle after this. I need, I need my, what do you call that thing they're cutting out? My catalytic converter. Thank you. You just
Yeah.
jacked my car up and cut out a
Well, we know
working
what
part
people
of
can
it.
do with a car. Are you supposed to give a car murderer, right? A car violence enthusiast a car? Like, no, you're supposed to not give them the thing that they're going to be violent with, for all you know.
Yeah. So my whole issue is I love the fact that somehow you put it on me as a person who's having my stuff stolen. Like what? I'm supposed to know how to, okay, you're in my house and you're taking my stuff and I want you to leave, but you're not leaving. Oh, I'm going to take this now. Go put my thing down. No. What are you going to do about it? What? I'm supposed to fight this person? I'm supposed to go down the lethality tree and pick up, I don't know, roach spray or bug spray or I'm supposed to carry a taser on me. I
Like,
have to have
throw
not.
your
No.
gun down and crack your knuckles and bare knuckle fist them, fight them because
Yeah.
uh, that's how they. That's what they wanted to fight you. That's how they decided to fight
So my whole thing when we were talking about it and did force on force, it's like then you have to learn how to talk and project, and that was one of the force on force things that we did at Ambassador Academy when I was there last year, and it's also verbal sparring. Well, I'm going to take this TV. What are you going to do? Go to jail by shooting me? Huh? You're going to go to prison? Makes no difference to you. You'll be on a T-shirt. Get out of my house. You'll be on a T-shirt, and they'll sing slow songs over your grave. So it makes no difference where I'll be. You won't be here. Oh, so you're gonna? And it's like, nope, we're done talking. We're done talking. Get out of my home. And then I just proceed to put on ear pro. It's like you won't shoot me. Yeah, and just pull out the freaking headset and put it on. It's like, oh, okay, I think I'll leave now. Speaking of the Smith and Wesson Bodyguard, have you seen the Smith and Wesson Bodyguard 2.0 and 380?
No.
Okay, so it just came out. They redesigned it. Tell me, I have the very same amount of my hand on that pistol grip as I do with a Glock 19, and it's still small enough. It's still the size of a Bodyguard 380. They did the undercut so high that an adult can actually get his hand fully on the grip of this thing. I have to put together the video because I filmed myself. I pulled out. I was at Union Hill Gun Club, which has their own gun shop, and they had a Glock 19, Gen 5 Glock 19. I grabbed it in a firing grip, turned it over, and used a black marker because my finger does hang off the pistol grip of the Glock 19, and I used a black marker on my finger to mark the bottom of the pistol grip. The same spot on the 380. The 380 pistol grip came to the same exact spot as the Glock 19. That's how high the undercut is on that gun, and it's a 380 single stack. I think it's a single, maybe it's a double. But I thought that was really and you have that less recoil, of a obviously of a 380. I think that is one of the because a lot of people I have no problem carrying. You know what I mean? I wear jeans, I wear baggy shirts, but some people want to be able to leave the house and just throw something in their pants pocket in a holster that's lightweight because they run around, wearing gym shorts or some crap like that when they go to the store. I think that's going to be one of the premier guns coming up probably in the next year because they just came out with this bodyguard. I don't think a whole bunch of them are out right now. Yeah, Smith and Wesson Bodyguard
I think you,
2.0, 10
now that
plus,
I'm looking at
10
this
plus.
picture, oops, now that I'm looking at this
Yeah,
picture, I think you posted a picture similar, right? We had in your,
yep. 10 plus one and 12 plus one capacity. And for me, because I love people that want to say some silly crap like, well, if you get that small, you got a nine. Bro, you're not shooting that nine. You're not going to shoot that nine well enough to be even accurate with it because the lightweight combined with the recoil of a full nine. But with a 380 and something that small, you may actually shoot it enough that it won't hurt the bejesus out of you. And we're talking an MSRP of like 450, which it's a heck of a
my
lot.
problem is I usually wear bicycle pants and a tank top. So sometimes anyway, so I don't want to print. So I'd have to have something pretty small.
Oh, and by the way, 10 ounces, 9.8 ounces. So you could even fit it into the waistband of your bicycle pants without pulling them down.
My problem is how do I get an optic on there? I need to have a red dot on there
Yeah, I would definitely have to have a red dot on there, and it's so thin, it's going to have to be a skinny red dot.
and a light. I need a light on there.
Oh, definitely needs a light. I don't know why it doesn't have a pick rail. I used to laugh because Jeremy at We Like Shooting said that one day about, guys, and he was like, look, we've gone from you wanted something you can conceal carry that's small, and now you've just increased the size of the footprint of your concealed carry firearm because you needed a light on it and a red dot on it well, now it's a bigger gun. It's a bigger gun. Uh, there's nothing wrong with red dots. I mean, obviously that's an option, but I don't believe now 100% don't believe that's guaranteed the future of every carry gun.
I'm 100% still think it's a fad. We'll see how long it goes, I guess. But
Gotcha.
Smith won't be at SHOT or the range day at least, right? So you're going to range day, right?
Yeah, I'll go in the range day. No, I've never seen Smith at range day,
I don't think they
but I've only
go,
been
and I
going
don't
since
even know if they
2020.
went to their own. Like Sig would have their own sometimes. I don't know if they got in a
Hmm.
fight with NSSF or something or whatever, but
Oh
they would
no,
have their own.
Sig had their own because I think Sig wanted to run everything. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
to
like
have
they
that,
wanted to. Yeah,
yeah,
and there
yeah,
is
Sig
other
wanted to run
places
their own.
to have it, and it's not like I don't really like media day anymore. Well, now it's not even called
Oh,
media day, but it used. I'm used to it when it started, and it was to spoil the media, and they suck up to us and go all
hmm.
out, and now it's become less and less all the time. But anyway, and it's definitely crowded and everything. I get what they're doing, and it's actually been better. I don't want to say it's like going downhill. It goes up and down, and it's definitely had really good years. But for whatever reason, Smith Wesson doesn't show up as long as I'm getting it. They might show up actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, they might have been by
Hmm.
Glock over the years, but they're typically not there. So I haven't, and I don't go into the booths and shoot nothing. But I would probably go in if it wasn't a giant line. I'm not going to wait in line for nothing. I don't think. But
I'm done with that bull crap. I'm done with that. I'm not waiting in line at
this takes
Bruger.
too
I'm
long.
not waiting
It's
in
like
line.
going to an
It's just
amusement park and waiting in line. You go to two rides and you don't really see nothing else. So if you're willing to
well here.
just look at some of the rides, you can see them all.
Well, here's what annoys me. The big ones, the big dogs. This is from what I've seen, and I've only been going since 2020. So the bigger channels, some of these people know that are in the booths. So when you show up with a three-man camera crew and a mic, all of a sudden you get treated like, oh, well, come on in. And like me and my guys, we do a podcast and we maybe use our phone to video stuff to put it on social media, or even me, like myself, I use not only the phone for my Instagram page, but I use it so I can remember these guns that I shot because you're shooting so many. And I videotape my impressions of them at the time because I'm not going to remember it at the end of a day when I shoot, I don't know, 75, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 guns. I don't even know how many we shoot. But I'm not going to wait in line when there's another 75 firearms companies and some you've not heard of, right across from the food trucks where they have those really small, like, one picnic table wide booths with a smaller company that you might not have ever heard of. Well, I want to talk to those guys and see what's up because those are the ones bringing the innovation. Because it's Chuck, Larry, Tim, and John, and they came up with these cool things in their garage. Or it's somebody that got together and they just started a small company like oh darn, what was the name of it? Alpha Foxtrot. Alpha Foxtrot is a company out of Korea that's building 1911s and other guns, and they were some awesome, well done firearms. But you didn't see much about them. I don't even know if you can find much about them right now on YouTube. But we got to hang out with them. We got to run multiple magazines through stuff. Bishop Bishop Firearms, Bishop Ammo, or whatever you call it. There's a lady there who she's a female FFL and gunsmith and firearms manufacturer, and she has built some of the coolest ARs and lever actions that you'll ever see. But it's like a small one woman show. And she was on our podcast. And these are some of the people that what I'm gonna not see because I'm waiting in line for Ruger to show me what the hell ever. Their Ruger Magpul Gen 3 Glock clone. No, I'm not waiting in line for that. I'm not waiting in line to shoot a Gen 3 Glock clone from Ruger and Magpul. Uh,
And
so
plus
I'm
some of that
looking
stuff
for
you go through and you do whatever and then you get done and then there's no line for that stuff. So it's all a matter
yeah.
of like how long you're going to be there, how big a priority something's got, and then if you're going to be at 3 different events this year, what's the odds that you're going to get to shoot one of those?
Yeah, so that's also one of the things. Like, I know the Ruger Magpul gun, I will be able to shoot it. We shoot because that will probably be a what do you call it gun, a rental gun that they'll put online for us to run through. But the smaller manufacturers, Waif wet reef reap weaponry. They make a bullpup pup chassis for AR-15s. I fired that at not Great American Outdoor Show, Gun Owners of America. Now I've watched videos of it. I thought it was cool because turning the AR into a bullpup, especially if you use something like that doesn't require you to have a buffer tube on it, turns it into a really short 5.56 with a 16-inch barrel, but an overall length of like 26, 27 inches. I like that. I like that idea, especially if they can do it in an ergonomic way, because pretty much the high point carbine and the high tower armory chassis turned me on to, yeah, if done well, these conversions can turn a regular gun that's, run of the mill, still an okay gun, into something just a lot more fun and a lot more compact and fun to shoot. So when I checked that out, I was like, yo, this is pretty freaking cool. And there's another one company called Warp Weaponry. They make one of the lightest weight AR-15s in the market, and they're a brand new company. And I was checking their stuff out. They weren't ready for prime time. They had a couple of little tweaks to do on their guns, and hopefully they've made it because they're a four-person company. You know what I mean? There's four people making these ARs. So that's who I want to see at SHOT Show. That's who I want to go check out. Everybody's going to be hitting the big companies. Everyone's going to go there. Everyone's going to check that out. I want to hit the smaller companies to see what they have. I want to check out uh, the SDS imports Browning high power that they put together. I'm definitely going to stop by and check out Rock Island Armory, even though they're not a small company. They're not the company that a whole bunch of people head for, but I think it's really worth going and checking out their new products because they do innovative stuff. They have that 5.0 E that they improved year after year. Rock Island, in my opinion, is one of those smaller companies, but they evolve their designs. They don't just dump them. They work at them to make them better and better, and they just keep them out there. And I think they're getting there. I think that'll be one of those surprise companies that everybody go, well, yeah, we knew they did stuff, but we didn't know they did it this well. And I hope I'm right about them because their price point is pretty good for a regular person just stepping into it. And now that we have so many new people, what over 2 million background checks a year, we talked about this, but there are a lot of Americans that are getting into firearms, and like you said, they're at the beginning of their journey. They might not want to buy a 15, 18, $1,900 1911. They just might want a 1911 to have in their gun safe so they can take it out every now and again and shoot a 1911. Well, that opens up a whole market for companies like TSOS and Gersant to have 1911s that are affordable and still work. They might not be a duty 1911, they might not be a go to war 1911, but they are a go to the range 1911 that might have a hiccup or something, and you can send it in and get, on warranty work if it breaks. But you got it just because you wanted one in your little, your small, what do you call that? I guess arsenal. It's like because you're really a Glock guy, or you're a striker fire guy, or you're a Smith and Wesson M&P guy, but you thought it would be cool to have a GI 1911. Well, there's no reason for you to dump what $700-800 on a Colt that might have crappy uh, quality control when you can do. I mean, right now this weekend, $299 for a GI sauce from Palmetto State Armory. $299 for a 1911 is so good that CMP is using it now. Civilian Marksmanship Program is actually selling TSOS 1911s because they're such a good clone of the 1911s issued during World War II. Nice. So Chris from the 740 is in the house, and he just picked up that Ruger RXM. So I dry fired it. I checked it out. I think the most innovative thing about that is the chassis system. Other than that, it's just another Gen 3 Glock clone. I'm not really that impressed by that gun, how it is, but how it could be, and all the other things you can do to it. I think that's going to be the future of that particular firearm. And I think it's pretty cool that Ruger has finally, made a decent striker fire polymer polymer pistol. Because I think the Ruger American and the other stuff were okay, but that was just it. They were okay. And you had to get a holster for a Ruger American. You had to get a this for a Ruger American. There was no aftermarket for anything on the Ruger American. So who's the market for that? That particular handgun, especially at the price it is now. With this is in the same price range as those, but it's a Glock Gen 3 clone. So I have all the accessories in the Glock world will work on this particular gun from Ruger. And one of the things I never get over is the fact that Ruger is like a security guard gun, right? When you come talking about handguns from Ruger, that was a big part of their market. I mean, hell, they had the Security 6, and now they have the Security 9. They know what their bailiwick was. They know what their lane was. I feel that you have a better gun now by a company that provides services for those dudes. Because my wife was a security guard, and we were talking about whether she wanted to be armed security, and you go, Yeah, for slightly above minimum wage. For slightly above minimum wage, I'm not buying a gun and going through everything you got to do in New Jersey just so I could carry a firearm. Yes, Rock Island Armory and Arms Corps are the same thing or same companies.
So
What a-
Arms Corps is going back up here. Arms Corps is the parent company. They were started in
Mhm.
1905, and they've got
Yeah.
a lot of different companies. Rock
Hmm.
Island is their 1911 one, and if I go back down here, they also have
Metro
Rock Island
Arms.
Imports, which is shotguns and some semi-autos, I guess, or no, semi-autos and pump shotguns. And they've got Arms Corps Ammo. They used to be called STI. There were
Didn't know that
Squires
one.
Bigham before becoming Arms Corps, if this is right. And then they've got other companies called like Twin Pines that are for the Philippines.
Hmm.
And then they work with, it says Turkish and,
Hmm.
oh wait, it says Arms Corps works with several manufacturers to produce firearms under different brand names. For example, Turkish manufacturers produce Rock Island import shotguns.
Hmm.
Dun dun dun.
So also they're working with Daria Arms right now that is out of Turkey, and they're making that Glock clone, the DY9. That's a Glock Gen 3 clone. I thought it was awesome.
It
And
says
also
that
they
they
make
make,
some. What was that?
I was going to say, it says they make some single action revolvers from Cimarron are made by Arms Corps.
Yep. Oh, Arms Corps makes more than people think they do, including 1911 frames for other people that would, companies that the owners of those firearms are poo poo on Rock Island, not knowing the gun they have is a Rock Island. Just has a different name
Just somebody
on
else finished it.
it. Yep. Oh, and also Daria Arms makes a M9 clone, a Beretta 92 clone that looks pretty good, called the Marique or something like that. I want to check those out because I think that's another important. Uh, I think that's important to the firearms community because M9s are pretty cool, but maybe you don't want to spend Beretta money on your M9 or a Beretta 92. You can pick up a clone from Gersant. You can pick up a clone from Daria Arms, which is again Rock Island, and you spend about half of what you spend on a Beretta because all you want is one of them just to say you have one, or even on a Taurus if they still make good ones. I don't know what Taurus QC is like when it comes to the Beretta 92 clones, or what do they call them? What the heck do they call those? The
Of course,
1911s Taurus, huh? Yeah, yeah. Taurus has the Taurus name for the Beretta 92 is the M. Ah, it's annoying. The PT, is it the PT something?
PT92, probably. I don't know.
Probably.
I didn't try hard.
Yeah, PT 92. Yep. So that's their clone, and I think they're pretty cool, but I don't know whether they work like they should. You know what I mean? But I think it's cool. They have different colors, they have different finishes, and that's more options than you're going to get from Beretta. So if you want a pretty one, you can get a pretty one. I don't care. More options, more better. And yeah, I think it's great. Yeah, they have the Rock Island makes that M200 snub nose. They also make one with a 3 or 4 inch barrel. And again, I think these are good as long as the guns are good, as long as they freaking work. People need to be able to afford to defend themselves, especially when you live in a state like New Jersey, because people often think, oh, well, the gun costs this much. Hey, asshat, the gun costs that much. But when you live in a place like this, you have the fees and the licensing and everything else that easily doubles the cost of the firearm. To get the state permission to get the gun is a cost that has to be factored in too. And that really sucks because that shouldn't be. You know what I mean? But to get my New Jersey firearms ID card, to get permission All right, let's say I want to buy the $225 freaking revolver, right? The cheapest gun that Rock Island makes, and I want to get it as a carry gun. I probably have to spend almost uh, $700 before I get state permission to buy the gun and carry the gun. So that $200 gun costs me a grand. It's not cheap anymore. Like that's how much money has to be dedicated to the purchase of a handgun, regardless, nearly $1,000 before I can even get my hands on it because I have to get it. I have to get permission from the state to have a firearm. I have to get permission from the state to buy a handgun. After I get the handgun, I have to take a class and learn how to shoot the gun well enough to pass the class that I take to get a carry permit. And then I had to pay for the class to carry permit. All of that has to be done before I can stick this thing in a holster and stick it in my waistband.
If you just want to buy 100 guns for a collection or 25 guns for a collection, how much is it, like a permission for each gun, or?
Yes. So what I have to do is again get a pistol purchase permit, right? Because I'm getting handguns. I have to get a pistol purchase permit, and I can only buy one handgun every 30 days, and I need a permit for each one of them, and it only lasts 90 days. So pretty much every 3 months, I have to go through the process again and again and again and
So
again.
if somebody passes away and they have, a collection of pistols that, Smith and Wesson pistols, some
Okay.
say, and then
So
they pass away and there's like 10 of them, it would take you 10 months to be able to get them.
yep, it'll
At the
take you
very
10
minimum.
months to be able to get them.
And you'd
Yeah,
have to
at
do
the very
10
minimum.
different ask permissions in order to do it. So somewhere along the line, do they go, do they have the authority to have the
Okay.
discretion to go, this is too many guns for you?
So what they can do? Oh yeah, they can throw a freaking railroad spike in the road in a minute. What you can also do in New Jersey is get permission to have more than one gun purchase at a time. It's still the one more than one handgun purchase at a time, but what they do is same paperwork, same time frame, but what you did is write down all of the serial numbers of all of the guns you want to pick up at once, and then you can get special permission to take all those guns at that time, but you still have to have firearms ID card and still get approved for the pistol purchase permit.
Oh, okay.
And this is how ridiculous it is. Okay, so your grandpa had a Smith and Wesson collection of 20 guns. You had to do all that paperwork I just told you, even if you yourself had a cult collection of 20 guns. They still act like you're some a-hole
Yeah.
that,
You're going to
that
be able
can't
to
be
do so much
trusted.
more with those extra 20. Can you imagine? Like, holy crap. Before he could shoot for 20 hours because he had 20 guns. Now he could shoot for 40 hours because he has 40 guns.
Yeah, that's the silliness we deal with here. And again, there's the financial end of it that if you didn't know that you could fill out one pistol purchase permit, but have all of those on there, every 90 days you'd be applying for a new pistol purchase permit for 3 guns over and over because
And
they
I
only
just feel
last
like
90
that would
days.
at some point cause an alert and they would consider themselves to have the authority to go, there's too many guns. This guy's sick with guns. He can't stop buying. We have, for his own safety and for the safety of the public, we have to stop this.
Yeah, they can possibly do that. Nothing has passed them. After you watch what they did with COVID, I don't trust them with anything. When they were able to shut businesses down based on, well, they said they had the authority, so they did it. And the police enforced the authority that they said they had, even though they didn't have it. It doesn't help your business out because it was shut down. You know what I mean? You still you still got evicted because you couldn't pay your bills, even though the government itself didn't have the authority to shut you down. So when it comes to firearms and stuff like that, yeah, gun owners here know that the law is just a suggestion to the government. To us,
CNC is saying that this is just a price. This is all just to price lower income people out of the ability to defend themselves. I was going to say another way to look at that, I think, not that I'm disagreeing, but just another angle on that is by creating barriers to whatever barriers of cost or onerous process or whatever just makes it difficult for people to do something, that's
Mm-hmm.
gonna um, create a place where people are like just gonna go, oh, you got a whatever, like, oh, I'm buying these tires off you, and you're gonna throw a gun in there. Okay, I'll just buy that gun off you on the streets, like on the black market, because I don't believe every black market gun deal is, or what would be deemed a black market gun deal is like criminals. I think a lot of times, like at least everything I've ever traded a gun back and forth was like that kind of thing. Like, oh,
Well,
I totally want
un-
those tires that you bought. Yeah, those tires are worth more than what you want to give me. Okay, I'll throw that gun in there. Okay, like guns are good, like
see,
coins or something, right?
th-
Like or like watches,
that'll
like $500 items or
that'll
$200 items when you're trading.
that only works in a place where they haven't killed the gun culture. And in Jersey, that's not the thought
No, that's what
process.
I'm saying. That's how they kill the gun culture, right? Is they make it where
Yeah.
like you can't just do that anymore. You can't just
Mm-hmm.
have a gun. Or if somebody does, I guess what I was getting at is if somebody does, then they're not going to want to defend themselves. Or at least I guess you're right. They're going to make it so that
Yep.
people don't even bother. But I know some
Yep.
people are still going to do it, and because the
Mm-hmm.
guns still exist and people are still not crazy, right? They still want to have guns, but they might have all kinds of problems when if they ever have to defend themselves. And that's where I guess we're saying the same thing, that that's one of the ways
Yep.
that they another way on this. It's not just that they want to make it so expensive that people can't have guns. They just want to make it so that guns aren't the only guns in the community are cops and bad guys.
Yep.
Period.
Cops and bad guys, and
Somehow they
sometimes
think
those are
that's better.
interchangeable. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Somehow that's who's safer. Who's safer? You have, and let's talk about, because everybody wants to talk about things like, well, New York City has 50,000 police officers. No, that's way too big of a number. Let's go your town. You know what I mean? Like your town, a normal sized town, not a city, a normal sized town, has like 50, 60 police officers over 3 shifts. And most of them work during the day. And then if something jacked up happens, an emergency happens, they're going to be taken away in a shift. All it takes is 2 major accidents, and you lose most of your police force until that whole thing is cleared up. It's like, stop acting as if somehow law enforcement is only 3 minutes away for everybody throughout the country, because that's not true whatsoever. And that's if they show up. Right now in California, cops ain't coming for a break-in. Cops not coming because you got carjacked in your front yard. You know what I mean? Anywhere near where they're freaking dealing with this fire. North Carolina, Tennessee, all those places that got flooded out. They probably still don't have law enforcement responding like they used to. And already people forgetting what it was like during COVID and the list of crimes that the police said they weren't coming out for. Like that's starting to fade because people have the memories of goldfish. So you're on your own. They're making it difficult for you, and they're planning on they guaranteeing that you will not remember what you felt like in 2020, 2021, 2022 when you realize law enforcement won't come. They're banking on that. And sadly, way too many people are allowing it to happen. They've gone back into that false sense of security that being in America gives you. I'm like, yeah, this is a false veneer of civility that we have here that many, many, many places in the world know does not exist in real life. It's only here.
We've had some crazy when you say it that way. I don't want to agree with you 100% because I think that for sure some part of the country, yes, but I think that I don't want to say just an echo. I think there are people that have been significantly changed by 20 and all that bullshit.
Mhm.
And then you come out at 20 and then you got the
Mhm.
Democrat guy starting a war, well, watching a war start in Ukraine and just pouring money into it.
Uh-huh.
So I guess there's probably some mental gymnastics you can do. Like I don't know every point of view. There's probably some weird point of view that isn't a straight line to my view that they would
Mhm.
say, well, they can have guns, but we don't need them. Like there's probably some
Mhm.
sort of weird, like, well, we're beyond like that. That's that country. Like that's you, whatever. That's not
I've
here.
actually I've actually had that conversation. They go, well, yeah, but we can hand them out here in an emergency. And I'm like, how long? I'm like, you're the stupidest.
That's probably the
Like
response. That probably would be the response. Like, oh, okay, I agree with you. We should have guns in a warehouse, and they could be handed out. Like fire
in an
extinguishers.
emergency.
Like if like in
Yeah.
California, where they gave everybody fire extinguishers, this would be over.
I'm like, yeah. So you're gonna learn how to use a firearm and develop that firearms culture in a class? Like, yeah,
No,
I
like
can
for
teach you.
sure. Like, and the pull out instructions like on a fire extinguisher, you're just gonna get it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
when
yeah,
you get it, you're gonna learn that. That's when you learn how to use the gun.
yeah. You're just gonna flip it over and read the ideograms on the side.
Like a law,
Aim,
like
aim.
those 4 or 5
Yeah,
pictures on a law that tells you how to work it. You're good.
and you're good to go. And you'll also learn, things like taking cover, moving to contact, hand and arm signals. That whole thing you're gonna pick up and become a natural. I'm like, that's when I realized I was dealing with people that don't really have the mentality to be involved in this conversation. It's like talking to a 5-year-old about algebra. It's like, yeah, you're not mentally equipped. You're not educated enough on this subject for us to even have what they call it, an open and honest conversation.
Well, I figured out a way to bring it back to the beginning of the show then, because with that,
Sure.
I hear you. Like I don't disagree, and it's frustrating. It's always frustrating, honestly. But it's
Hmm.
only frustrating until I remember that it ain't their fault. Number one, we don't got some rules that like we all have to get indoctrinated with some civics, some similar
Hmm.
civics class. I don't think we should. But at the same time, it's our obligation to some extent to, if we want to see the world change in some way, we got to do something about it. We can't just sit there and expect, because I think that's what everybody gets disappointed when everybody else sits around just expecting the world to go their way. So if you want
Hmm.
to see something, put some effort into it. The effort that we
Yep.
put into it is not echo chamber, it is tactics and strategy and then implementation of them, right? So look around and go, what needs to change? Well, in my opinion, after all these years, what needs to change is the rhetoric and the tactics and stuff. Like you're not going to change guns, right? What are we going to do? Make guns different? Like no, we're not going
Mm-mm.
to appease them by giving away a gun. Like none of that kind of stuff, right? So really, we just need to change. Like you said, there's people that just don't know, and really, the people on both sides. Unfortunately, we've got some on our side. I won't bitch about it, but the other side for sure uses unknowledge, or like I don't want a lack of knowledge, like unawareness.
Hmm.
I don't like to say ignorance because that implies people can't be smart. Like you can be super smart and not know how your car works, right? You can be super smart and not know how
Well,
the food gets to your
well,
table. Like you don't have to know
ign-
everything.
ignorance is just not knowing.
Yeah,
Ignorance is
exactly.
not a negative thing. It's just not knowing. And I think, and yeah, there is ignorance. But see, my problem is not with just look, you don't know something, you don't know something. I can't blame it for you. But it's the will for ignorance that's the most annoying. Like, hey, look, you can find out about this, what I'm saying. You don't have to believe what I'm saying. Look here. No, I refuse to look at it. Why would you refuse? I'm not lying, bro. Like, here are FBI statistics. It's not even FBI statistics from the How's this? Go to Mom's Demand website. They have the same statistics. These are the people you agree with. The political movement you agree with tells you this. No, that's willful ignorance. I'm not talking to you. You know what I mean? That's you refusing to even look at facts. That's the worst kind. Being ignorant of
Well, we've
something,
got that
please.
polarization or that like partisan or whatever, but I think
Hmm.
that's again like yeah, that's you're not stating you're stating the facts. Like you're not wrong, but we're not doomed to that. I guess in my response, and
Yeah.
that because we haven't seen an alternative to that that's decent yet doesn't mean there ain't one, and I think there is one because well, I'll try to think of like something like constitutional or concealed carry. Concealed
Hmm.
carry, the idea of putting a gun in your pants or whatever, in your waistband or in your pocket, in your purse or some other way concealed from view. I
Hmm.
literally in 2012, because that's when I drove around with Haas, we had a
Hmm.
decision in 2012, or okay, it might have been before that, but with the dude I know who is a dude who is most adamant that gun people should own guns. It was a mindset, and we all shared this. You can deny it if you want. Maybe young people don't do this, but old people, we all share this. It was unscrupulous to hide your gun. Back in the old days, cowboys carried their gun on the outside. It's like a sword. You carried your gun on the outside, and the idea was that you were going to deter crime because people could see how many people had guns. I guess I don't know, but it was only the unscrupulous would hide their gun, so it was not gentlemanly to carry concealed. And since there was no standard, because gun carrying wasn't a thing, it had been essentially taken away from our culture for a long, long time, since the olden days. Like I don't know when it got removed, but it got removed. So in the 80s and 90s now, and then like, in the early 2000s, there was still people that did not like the idea of concealed carry. They're like, may have said, theoretically, I'm okay with it, but I won't do it. And I think that was the kind of conversations I was having. And I had to go like, look, dude, like it's not a big deal. Like what if you just want to wear a jacket? Like what if your gun is in your waistband, but now you want to put a jacket on? Now it's concealed in the eyes of the law. Do you have to get a concealed carry permit for that? Like, nah, I shouldn't have to. Like, there you go. So like we're on the same page. It should just not be a thing. Carry a gun, you carry a gun. If you're carrying a knife, who cares? Like if you're wearing glasses, right? Like if you had a hat on, nobody cares. Like there shouldn't be laws about what you're wearing or what you're carrying around. But anyway, so I know that I've had conversations about that. And now in 2025, we got 26 states, 29 states, when I can't remember.
29.
29 states
29.
with constitutional carry, 50 states with concealed carry. And that's just a cultural change that, we had to do something. Like it certainly wasn't GOA and NRA and SAF, like taking $30 from everybody and making it happen. They didn't arm wrestle the country into concealed carry. That was a bunch of people who just went, oh crap, like I know people in Florida that can conceal carry. I should be able to conceal carry. I know people in Florida and Arizona that conceal carry. I should be able to. There's people in Vermont, California, or not California, Vermont, Florida, and Arizona that can. I should be able to. And then it's like 5 states, 7 states, 9 states. And then it's like, well, crap, I know like 12 people that conceal carry. I should be able to. That's literally how concealed carry happened. And then constitutional carry, how did happen? Exactly the same way. It's not like GOA arm wrestled Biden and got constitutional carry in 29 states. Like that's just a bunch of states realizing it's not a big deal, right? So I think that happened without intent. That's happened as a consequence of responsible people choosing to act responsibly, right? So all we have to do is be able to enunciate that, like be able to verbalize that to people and like show that, just hold the mirror up, hold the picture frame around it and go, look what happened. Like 50 states have concealed carry. I bet you 90% of the people I know that don't care about guns would go, oh shit, I had no idea, because they could care less. Not that they hate guns, they just could care less. They know I like guns, but big deal. Like I also like motorcycles, or something. Like that's just a thing I do. So they don't care passionately about this stuff. So as long as we figure out a way to like illustrate that well, like maybe in a mainstream movie, that kind of way, some like positive news article about it, something that changes like a massive shift. That's how we start to win, I think. So anyway, it's, I said, taking it back to the beginning. That's sort of where I'm hoping with Minuteman, to just offer some resources towards people, for people that are working towards that type of outcome.
And I think that's a great thing. Oh, wow. Here's his name. All right. Yeah, I think that's a great thing because education is the way we're going to have it. And everybody's not going to learn the same way. Every argument doesn't have to end and start the same way. We don't have to say the same things because they're not going to work with the same people. I mean, it's a process and it's an individual process. And sometimes, just sometimes, you just don't feel like being that person that day. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I don't really feel like having this discussion. That's also one of the reasons when you look at my logo, it doesn't really scream firearm. Because sometimes I just don't feel like being that person to have that discussion in the room that day. I mean, I've had it at work. And sometimes I'm going, you know what, dude? I don't even feel like talking about this to you. I got stuff to do. You know what I mean? It's like every day doesn't have to be a fight.
Couple of people that know me in real life that are like, you're the gun guy, right? And like, you still doing the gun thing? For years, like I haven't really. So I've been like, no. But yeah, like every question they got about guns, and it's like, I kind of don't want to have that role in real life. I don't mind having it on the internet because you can turn that on and off, right? You go look at it when you feel like it, or for an hour a day or something. But yeah, like. Yeah.
Oh, I'm
It
fine
wasn't a
being the
big deal.
gun
I was
guy.
working at the gun shop. Like I'm hanging out at the gun shop every day, and somebody asked me, hey, should I get this new? Like, so it's just like somebody will ask me like this bodyguard question. I mean, I might
Hmm.
remember that Ozzy has been making holsters for something called the Bodyguard 2.0, but if you showed me three Smith and Wesson pistols, I wouldn't be able to point out the 2.0. Because I'm just
Mm.
not paying attention right now. So people will come up and be like, "Oh, you're the gun guy. Should I get this new blah 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 caliber?" I'm like, man, I can give you like 8 people I know online who could tell you about that, but I don't even barely know. I couldn't tell you if you were telling me a real caliber.
Oh, dude, this is hilarious. Yeah, dude. I mean, it's really true. I have no problem being the gun guy, but it's like I'm not getting into the pro-gun, anti-gun argument with you every day because I got guys here. Actually, I'll go ahead and say what happened this week. A guy walked up and was like, "Hey, I hear you the gun dude." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." He was like, "Well, I have a what is it? The Glock 30, 45 ACP, small one. Yeah, I got one of those. I mean, I want to start shooting it more, but I don't even know how to take it apart to clean it." Seriously, bro? Yeah, I don't. And this is a cop. This is his carry gun. I'm like, all right, two things. One, you're gonna have to look at YouTube and learn how to clean your gun. I ain't gonna do that. He's like, yeah, but I don't even have a cleaning kit. Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, I got one in my car. You know what I mean? I had one of those small ones, one of those little self-contained ones. I was like, just come to the car. I'll
Yeah.
give it to you. But I'm like, dude, come on now. But for me, for a guy like that, I'm like, all right, cool. Um, get him on the right track, give it to him, not poop all over him. The difference between the EZ and the Bodyguard 2.0, the 380 EZ, you can get more of your hand on the pistol grip, but both are really easy to rack. The thing I don't like about the EZ is it has a grip safety, just like a 1911 does, and I
Really?
think that's unnecessary and can also lead to you not gripping it correctly. Because I do what I do, and I'm lucky enough to have a bunch of female instructors that are friends of mine and also that I follow online. Uh, Many of them have reported that yes, they have their female students are having a problem pushing in the grip safety every time. So if I have the option
When you
between the
rack it,
two,
do you have to do the grip safety to rack the thing? Like you're cleaning it
I
or
don't
taking it apart or something?
know. You have to do the grip safety to shoot the thing like a 1911.
I know, but I'm saying because I've seen some that you have to have that engaged, so it just makes it kind of awkward to manipulate it
Oh,
when you're cleaning and fiddling with it if you got
yeah.
to on for all that.
I've only manipulated it a few times, and I've shot it because one of my guys has it at the range. He has the EZ. What do they call that one? The Performance Center EZ. He has that, so I never checked it out. I just ran some rounds through it. But my whole thing is in between the two. Oh, also the EZ is bigger. The EZ is a bigger gun. It is easier to get your hand around it for two-handed holes. But as I'm looking at that new 2.0, I can get a full grip on it too. So now, currently, if I had the choice, I'd go with the 2.0. But before the 2.0 came in, because they had the Bodyguard 380, that was horrific. Comparing the two, I'd take the EZ. But now that the 2.0 is out, definitely go with the 2.0. That's just my opinion. I haven't pulled the trigger live fire on the 2.0. I've dry fired the snot out of the 2.0 because it is so ridiculously. I just like everything about it. Uh, Hopefully, somebody will have one that I can actually shoot a diversity shoot because that 380 ammo is no joke. And if I'm going to get one, I'm going to have somebody donate the ammo. So if Smith and Wesson going to give me one, Smith and Wesson has to provide the ammo for it.
When you're talking about this, and I'm so over here trying to find a picture with both of them guns in it, and I'm not having good luck. But I'm sitting here thinking about 1 year what we did for SHOT Show is took photographs of the this was a while ago, so the guns we used, you could be will help date it. The Keltec P38T, and because I liked it, the little Desert Eagle 380, and then some other little one. Probably it wasn't a C Camp because we never hardly had those in the store, but something that level, like one of those kind of 3-off brands that are high end. Man, what was the other one? Bauer? No, no, it wasn't. But whatever, some little gun, and then I don't remember, but probably a car. So anyway, we took, and I think we either put them on a photocopier. I might have put them on a photocopier, or else I took pictures on a grid or something, so that we had them printed. They were kind of in color, maybe. So maybe I don't remember where we printed them at. But anyway, doesn't matter. We printed them though, and then cut them out and printed them on cardstock, so they were a little bit thicker paper, and then cut them out. Had this like stack of life-size photographs that were the guns, and when we went to SHOT Show, we were putting those next to the new ones, so that way we have like, you know, the new blah blah blah, but with these 5. I think we had like 5 or 6 of these cutouts, and that way people could have photographs right away of, because there's no way you can do that at SHOT Show. Nobody's gonna let you like, hey, let me pick up your new Smith & Wesson 2.0 and take it over to the Ruger booth and put it next to that MCX or whatever it's called. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
But you could take pictures. That's what we thought. Like, oh, we'll take pictures. Anyway, so if somebody wants to do that, steal that idea and do it, run with it. I wonder if you could do it with like a tablet. You could do it with like a tablet maybe, and have it, you know, open up full
Yeah,
size.
up to a point. Yeah.
So for pocket guns, yeah. Let's see.
Go ahead.
I don't know where we want to keep going.
My goodness.
Getting to 3 hours already. I got about another 15 minutes or so, half an hour at the most.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Yeah, I gotta go shopping.
I didn't even think about that. I just got to go over and get some mail. Wood says that calling the Glock 19 the Toyota forerunner of guns. I think that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it as the Honda Accord of guns, as the Toyota. Yeah, just it's a good solid. Well, the thing is, it's a solid gun that you don't have to do anything to if you just want to run it. People have owned them, you know. But if you want to do a whole bunch of stuff to it, well, that's available too.
Let's see. CNT said before that GOA spent a lot of money in court to protect carry in the courts. I hear what you're saying. I'll debate on how much GOA specifically spent, but I hear what you're saying. And that is, I think, a little bit more modern than what I was talking about. When we were seeing concealed carry happen, that was kind of before. There was Heller, and there was McDonald, and Ezel was happening, or Ezel 1 and Ezel 2 were both happening. But those essentially could have happened silently in a corner. No one heard them because no one heard them. Nobody paid attention to them. But they weren't like the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, NYSERPA versus the Loser Bruin case that everybody really saw because there's been backlash. There was really no backlash to McDonald from the antis because we were winning and they just didn't have the power. Then Ezel won. Well, plus it was McDonald, right? McDonald fighting against Chicago. They just didn't see a win there. And then Ezel happens, and Ezel 2 happens, like 3 punches to him, punches in the throat. That removed that enforced Heller and said that states couldn't say that some cities are exempt from Heller. And then Ezel said, and I mean, you also can't make it so that you can't make it prohibitively expensive to do this. Like, you can't make us go to 6 states or 6 cities over because you put laws up that you can't have ranges in cities. But we still don't even have a range in Chicago after all that. So anyway, I hate to, I'm not saying that they didn't do stuff. I'm just saying if they wanted to take credit for shit, then let's see somebody champion a range in Chicago. Like, there's so many things left on the table. They did do some things, but they can't take credit for the wave of change that happened because they just stood there watching the change happen. And then once the change had established itself, we got way into the momentum of constitutional carry. Then GOA jumps on board and starts taking court cases. And Again, we could have a whole discussion on whether or not, in the big picture, that was a move against FPC and SAF or not. But everything was done in the shadow or the wake or whatever you want to say of what the NRA was doing. And if anybody wants to stand up and say they're awesome, then they could have done it while the NRA was faltering. They all waited for the NRA to fall over before they got up and said they were awesome. So I'm not just going to give nothing to these organizations. They take tens of millions of dollars, and we're still fighting the same fights we've had, at least in my experience, since 2015. The exact same fights for 10 years now. You can't take tens of millions of dollars from a community and do very little, and then expect pats on the backs constantly. Sometimes we get, anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. We're 3 hours in. But that is a good point. Like, I don't want to say they didn't do shit. I'm just going to never give them a pat on the back for.
Well, my whole issue is, again, when it comes to it was done by everybody, and this is just one thing. The handgun cases, the cases. I'm like, yeah, but let's stop. Let's stop depending on court cases to win us our rights, and let's start working on getting rid of any politician that tries to take our rights through legislation. Like, we need to be, and that goes to my post today. We need to be aggressively pro 2A in this next 2 years, because we have the legislation, we have the Senate, we have uh, the House, and we have the presidency. Let's act like it. It's time to get very, very, very aggressive.
I would say that both parties too, any of the parties really, like I'm sure
Yeah.
the independent parties, but the Republicans have to figure out what they're going to do after Trump. So that means the Republicans got to come up with positions, right? Like a party line. And that's up for grabs as far as I know. I'm not like super politics, but just from what I can tell. And same thing with Democrats. Like, they've had some losses, right? So they're going to want to have something, coordinate something going forward. So both of them have the option to reevaluate where they've been, and hopefully not with Bloomberg interference. Hopefully that'll come to light more and more as the different things have come to light over the last couple of years. No one's everybody's been worried about the bullshit in 20, and then the wars maybe, and maybe some specific things, but no one's really that I'm aware of, no one's really scrutinized Bloomberg's influence with anti-gun bullshit, and ever asked why. Like, for real, why does he give so much of a shit? Is it just such an easy neck to step on? Or is there some ulterior motive? Like, we always kind of allude to ulterior motives that are, borderline conspiracy theory without any research or justification. But why doesn't anybody research to help justify what the hell? Why are these guys and ladies doing the things that they're doing specifically? They literally
Like,
just gave them a different option. Like I've said in the past, like, would they go after pool safety if, like, they figured out that gun safety wasn't an issue? Like, would they just be so worried about safety that they've got it? We could just satiate them by putting some other kind of safety in front of them. Like, leave guns alone and we'll go after pools with you. Like, no one should own a pool. There shouldn't be pools outside of a pool, out of a whatever, like Olympic stadium. Like, no one needs a pool. Plus, they're bad for the environment. You know what I'm saying? Like a backyard swimming pool. Like, these things shouldn't exist. Would it be that easy? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's never going to be that, because that's not what it is. Now, my question is, again, they will never do it because they take money, they take funding. Who's the they that's going to do the investigation? The media? Is this the same media that has Pfizer and all those other companies? What, you expect them to do investigations upon the people that pay most of their commercial costs? Nah. So, I mean, that's the bad part, that the media stopped being the fourth estate and just started taking checks. And that's frustrating, because you got Dorcases like us that go, hey, something's into this. Why don't you guys look at? No, you just don't want to look into it at all. Oh, there's no story there. There's no story that a billionaire is funding multiple anti-gun organizations continuously. not only anti-gun organizations, but are funding a political movement in multiple states to get judges put in and district attorneys put in. I mean, yeah, prosecutors put in. Yes, there's an influence there, and it's a civil right that you're crushing. Why? And why that
I
one?
mean, it's either some intent, right, or total random. And either way, I think it could be scrutinized, and then it makes it more effective for us if we know that there's an agenda. We can shed light on it and let people who are motivated to, or who people who are efforting to achieve that agenda, at least become illuminated to it, right? Like, hey, do you know what this guy's goal is? And you know, you're the soldiers in that, the foot soldiers or whatever in that effort. Is that really what you want? Or is it the safety that you want, right? Like, so bring that up. Or if it's just complete wandering, like we should be able to use that to our advantage. Like, we have enough brains on our side to figure out the chess moves or whatever, if they're random or if they're for real.
Yeah, we're
Anyway,
not trying to be. Yeah, whatever. Hey, man, listen. Hey, glad to be on. We can talk about this stuff every week, but
yeah, we got
it
that
is
coming
kind of
up. But
frustrating.
when you got the next diversity shoot?
I'll let you know. We'll be able to tell you next week.
Oh, okay. You're still setting them up.
Yep, still setting them up, and I'm going to give it a week to get everybody's approval. So, text messages and emails go out Monday, and I'll probably get approval back from most of them by Tuesday. Uh, so we'll see. It doesn't really take long. It's me picking out the dates and making sure I have enough days and all that crap because I need 20 days minimum just for the diversity shoots of vacation time, and then I need
Oh, on your end,
the
yeah.
5 yeah, and then I need the 5 days on each side of both the shot show, a couple days Great American Outdoor Show, a couple more days from other adventures. So yeah, I need another freaking 10, 15 days. So I need about 35 days off a year to do what I do.
I know you mentioned messing with the website, so we'll talk off air here or whatever. But let me know whatever needs to happen there.
Yep.
And yeah, CNT makes some good points. But just in the what do you call it? In the effort of getting out of here at the 3 hour mark, we'll cut it off. But anybody that wants to bring up any of these topics, I'm all down. My goal, I guess, if we go back to goals for 2025, I'd really like to say, I'd like to get the Daily Gun Show going again on a regular, like every evening. But realistically, that's one of the things that um, didn't help because I didn't do it for any kind of income. I just did it, and that ended up meaning that I was awake and preparing for it and doing stuff, and I wasn't doing other things that could have been bringing in money. So now that I'm doing things that bring in money, it's the dilemma is how much time do I spend on the gun stuff right now. So as much as I'd like to do the show every night, I have to wait until I do get some sort of figure out a way to make it pay for itself. And it doesn't need to
Hmm.
support me or anything. It just needs to actually pay for itself. So if I can do that at SHOT Show, great. But I'm not going to assume that that's it's not what I'm going to SHOT Show for. So but if we can, then we'll definitely address these issues because that's what it's all about: is having time, at least in my experience, in my opinion, from my experience, we do better as a community, at least the people I know that have done better when you've got support and you've got consistent or reliable places to have conversation, whether that be a platform that's not fighting us
Hmm.
or just, shows like this where you know that people are going to show up on the regular to have actual topics or conversations. We've had some decent players. We could talk all about that again in another show. But I know that I value that. I think that it would be useful for the effort, but I don't know a way to do it. And not at least for every single night, and then not have all my other stuff suffer. So,
Yeah.
but that's the sort of thing. I guess what I'm saying is, if we want to have conversations like this, I'm not shying away from it. We're just jumping off here, but we can figure out a way to have it. Or if somebody wants to start a show to have these kind of conversations, like definitely send me a link. And we'll give Tony the last word. If there's anything else you want to say, then we'll hit the button.
All right,
looking forward
cool.
to
This is
some
what I have to say.
comments.
Not only let me go ahead and put it out there, diversityshoot.com. If you want to support our work, check out my schedule. Simon Says Train. The second is for everyone. Both of those, Simon Says Train, the second is for everyone, and Tony Simon. Those are me on Facebook. Instagram is Simon Says Train, and X is second for everyone using the numbers. All right, cool. That's about me. About you. Everybody, hey, what should we do in the coming year? All right, this is what I feel you should do as just a regular dude in the coming year. Uh, be more vocal politically in your local area. It means writing in. It means making a phone call. Do it. Don't wait until something happens. Do it now. Introduce yourself to your legislator through a letter. Call and say, hey, my name is Hi, I'm Tony Simon. I live in Jersey. You're my congressman. I am a pro gun person and I support pro gun candidates. Just letting you know that any anti gun bills that come down the pike, I'm educated on this. Here's my phone number. If you have any questions, contact me and I can explain some of this stuff. But I'm just letting you know I donate to pro gun candidates and pro gun movements. That's it. You don't have to do any more than that. You don't have to get into an argument with the person. And shoot them a letter. Do a handwritten letter because it means something different than an email. But if all you want to do is email, do an email. But contact your legislators. One of the things that brings you up on the list, because writing, being a constituent that writes in, they pay more attention. Being a constituent that calls, that's another level of paying attention to you. Being a constituent that actually donates to their campaign, I'm talking $20. All of a sudden you're a donor and you're in a whole nother level of we need to pay attention to this person. Doesn't take much for you to get to donor level. I'm talking about a $10, $20 donation. Also, elected officials can see if you vote regularly. They can't see who you vote for, but they can see if you vote regularly. That's an important thing that you should do. Also, support local Second Amendment organizations. If you don't trust the big organizations because they have different priorities than you do, donate to local. If you're wondering who to donate to, who's actually doing the work, um, and you want to do somebody, you donate money to somebody you can trust that knows is going directly into fighting for Second Amendment and arming people or at least getting them educated, diversityshoot.com. I have multiple ways you can donate to the work I do to help us out, including we have a Patreon. So the Second is for Everyone podcast on Patreon. You can donate and just make it a regular donation, and that helps out a whole lot. So, yes, I'm doing the work. You can track me. You can follow me on social media. You can see what I do. You can see the work I do. You see photos. You see videos. So, support people that do the work, become more politically active, and just be the awesome person that you are because gun people are some of the coolest people out there. We're the ones that don't really break the laws. We're the ones that are volunteers. We help. I mean, that's what I found out during my time that when I'm talking to gun people, I'm talking to the volunteers, I'm talking to the people that come to my events, and they volunteer EMTs, they volunteer for the kids' sports. They do all kinds of things. We're more than just gun owners, but that's the kind of thing they just want to paint us into being, and I'll go ahead and say it, racist gun nuts that care more about our guns than our children. Meanwhile, we have some of the most awesome people out there that volunteered, work with children, and help their communities out, but also totally understand that you're on your own, that your safety and your security is not the job of the state. It's the job of you as the individual. And we need to fight for this right when we have the Senate, the House, and the presidency. We got to put in work. We need to put our foot on the gas for the next 2 years and work our ass off to make sure we push the Overton window back. So when Boberg puts up a bill to get rid of the ATF, share it. Yes, I'm totally aware that that's not going to happen. But when the anti-gunners continually put bills up to ban every gun, what they're doing is moving the Overton window of what is accepted, the legislation that's accepted, the things that they look at. They just shift it over to their side more. We need to push it the other way a hell of a lot more. So that's what I'm asking you to do in 2025. Make it your thing. So that's it. I really appreciate you guys allowing me to come on and actually having these conversations and you guys participating. I really appreciate it. And thank you very, very much. Thanks, G Webs, for having me on and be able to talk about stuff like this. Because much like you, I think this is important to have these conversations and make people aware of. You need to be doing it on your own too, because we need to make this normal. We need to actually allow people to talk about this in public. It shouldn't be verboten talking about firearms. It shouldn't be something that makes you nervous because that guy owns a gun. Well, how many damn background checks you have in certain states to own a firearm? Yeah, not
Yeah,
only am I a
good
good
point.
guy, yeah, I'm a good guy with freaking paperwork, bro. I'm like from Utah, from Florida, from North Carolina. Like all these places had to do background checks on me for me to get the freaking carry permit. I'm like, so unlike the guy you meet at a bar that you think's a great guy and he ends up being a serial killer. No, I've got paperwork saying at least I'm law abiding and I have a freaking expensive damn hobby. So also means I got a freaking job. So anyway, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks for spending Saturday with us.
Right. Have a good. We'll see you in shot here in a bit, and stay tuned for. Well, I guess we'll have to find out for next week, right? Probably not.
Yep.
Week after, maybe we'll figure out something for next week.
Oh no, it'll be next week.
You'll be home by Saturday.
What was that?
You're gonna be home by Saturday next week.
Next week, Saturday is the 18th. Actually, I'll be shooting a what you call it next week. I'll be shooting at a competition next week, the winter shoot. So I
Yeah.
might make it on. So we might do next week too because the winter shoot starts at 10 and ends at 1.
Okay. Well then, yeah, might adjust the time a little bit. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Shit. Ninja? Ninja! Ninja!
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.